1161 Two women. By the time Yang Chun kills Duan Lingtian and avenges his brother, I'll ask him for a favor, recommend me as the disciple of that martial emperor behind him. Yun Gang's eyes glimmered with brilliance as he wore a confident expression. He'd owe me a favor, so it'll hard for him to reject my request. The disciple of a martial emperor. This was the true intention of Yun Gang. Long before after he had witnessed Yang Hong being killed by Duan Lingtian, this idea had popped up in his mind. He thought of using Yang Hong's death and Duan Lingtian so that Yang Chun would not be able to reject this request of his. As for the part where he asked Duan Lingtian to become the sect leader of the Yin-Yang sect later, that was just a small part of his plan so that Duan Lingtian would remain with the sect. If he had not made such a request, Duan Lingtian would have never remained. By that time, it would be useless even if he went to look for Yang Chun. The Cloud Continent was so vast. It might not be possible for him to find Duan Lingtian, who had already left the Yin-Yang sect to avenge Yang Hong's death. If Yang Chun could not find Duan Lingtian, he would not be able to avenge Yang Hong, and that would mean that he would no longer owe him any favors. This was not something he wanted to see. For this reason, he persuaded the Yu brothers to invite Duan Lingtian to become the sect leader of the Yin-Yang sect that one time, and make him understand that request with reason and emotion. At the end, when Duan Lingtian wanted to rename the Yin-Yang sect without batting so much as an eyelid. This was because he knew that Duan Lingtian would not be able to live for long. As the group of Lingtian sect disciples left Lingtian Peak to search for Ka and Li Fei, breaking news spread out from their mouths like a hurricane. The Yin-Yang sect has already been renamed as the Lingtian sect. The Yin-Yang sect no longer exists in this world. Yang Hong, the peak master of the Yang Peak of the Yin-Yang sect, has killed the former peak master of the Yin Peak who was in closed-door healing, causing his men to resent him intensely. In that critical moment, a young powerhouse made his appearance and killed Yang Hong. That young powerhouse was Duan Lingtian, the current sect leader of the Lingtian sect. For a moment, it seemed as if Lingtian Peak was the eye of the storm and people were speaking about this matter everywhere. Now, everyone knew that the Yin-Yang sect no longer existed. The Lingtian sect was now unleashed into this world, and not only that, it had a young and powerful sect master. The news spread swiftly in every direction. Soon, it almost reached every corner of the area close to the Ruo Shui River, near the southern area of the inner land. A small city stood by the area close to the Ruo Shui River, southward of the inner land. Although it was small, it was extremely lively. This was especially so for the restaurants that were bustling with activity all day long. On that day, two unexpected guests made their appearance in the small city. They were two gentle and graceful women clad in white who had veiled faces. However, even by just looking at their exposed autumn eyes and penciled eyebrows, it was enough to see that they probably had exquisite, beautiful, and delicate faces that could topple even huge nations despite wearing veils. One of the women who had rather seductive eyes said to the other woman who looked slightly more naive judging by her eyes, "Younger sister Ka, let's take a break for lunch before we continue our journey." "All right." The latter nodded her head faintly and agreed without hesitation. The two women entered the city and found a restaurant before sitting by a table beside the window. It was also quite rare for women to appear in this city, let alone women who were as beautiful as flowers. The moment these two women looked around, they immediately attracted the attention of many customers in the restaurant. However, although these two veiled women attracted most of the customers, not many of them dared strike up a conversation with them at all. Nobody could guess if these two women possessed horrifying strength or not. If they did, they would most likely end up dead should they dare to act boldly. For this reason, nobody dared to make a move. Soon, the restaurant's atmosphere became lively once more. Although some were glaring at the two women like greedy tigers, they only dared to keep to their thoughts instead of making a move. "Hey, have you heard the news already? The Yin-Yang sect no longer exists." A middle-aged man's loud voice suddenly went over everyone's chatter in the restaurant, attracting the attention of many people. "The Yin-Yang sect is gone. Don't tell me it's been demolished." Immediately, it caused the eyes of many to light up as they looked at the middle-aged customer. Right at this moment, even the two veiled women who were sitting by the window could not help but cast a side glance at the middle-aged customer before exchanging glances with each other. "Sister Fair, we just left the Yin-Yang sect not long ago, but why did they say that it's already gone?" one asked the other. "Don't take that news outside too seriously." The other woman shook her head in reply. These two women were none other than Ka and Li Fei, who had just left the Yin-Yang sect not long ago. After they left, they began to cultivate as they headed north. Their destination was the Yuhan Valley, which was at the northern side of the inner land. The Yin-Yang sect was a first-rate force. How could it have actually been annihilated so easily? The middle-aged customer continued. Then, what happened? Exactly. Don't keep us guessing. Hurry up and tell us. Many customers egged him on. This story must have started from the time when the Peak Master and the Vice Peak Master of Yin Peak of the Yin-Yang sect went for closed-door healing. Rumor has it that Yang Hong, the Peak Master of Yang Peak of the Yin-Yang sect, went crazy and killed them when the two of them were in the midst of the closed-door healing. The middle-aged customer said slowly, to be honest, if the Peak Master and the Vice Peak Master of Yin Peak of the Yin-Yang sect were hurt, they wouldn't have feared Yang Hong at all. However, the two of them who were already injured were no match for Yang Hong at all. Gasp, 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 When the middle-aged customer reached this part of his story, the restaurant immediately was filled with a series of gasps. What the hell did that Peak Master of Yang Peak of the Yin-Yang sect want to do? Why did he kill the two powerhouses from his own sect? Or maybe, this news was fake after all. Many people voiced out their doubts. I heard that Yang Hong, the Peak Master of Yang Peak of the Yin-Yang sect, wanted to become the sect master of the Yin-Yang sect himself, so he decided to seize the opportunity to wipe out these two huge obstacles in Yin Peak, the middle-aged customer continued. Well, this is possible. Long ago, I've heard that the person who wants to become sect leader of the Yin-Yang sect must possess a strength that can overpower everyone in the sect, otherwise, the Yin-Yang sect can only be commanded together by the Peak Master of Yin Peak and the Peak Master of Yang Peak. Many people nodded their heads. I never expected this matter to spread, especially to this place. A flash of brilliance flashed across Li Fei's autumn eyes. The red lips beneath the veil moved slightly as she muttered in a voice that only Ka could hear. Sister Fair, I miss Master and Senior Sister already. The autumn eyes beneath the naturally arched brows were gleaming brightly. Tears threatened to fall any time, making her appear pitiful, so much so that one would have an impulse to rush up to embrace her. I miss them too. Don't worry, we'll avenge them, Li Fei said solemnly. All right, Ka nodded obediently. Then, in this case, that Peak Master of Yang Peak of the Yin-Yang sect must have become the sect leader of the Yin-Yang sect now. But, why did you say that the Yin-Yang sect no longer exists? Don't tell me that because the Yin-Yang sect has now lost their two powerhouses, were they demolished by the other rival forces? A voice resonated and attracted the attention of everybody, including Li Fei and Ka. Immediately, everybody looked towards the middle-aged customer. Of course not. The middle-aged customer shook his head. There were a total of 4 mighty people in the Yin-Yang sect. Aside from the 2 from the Yin Peak, there were 2 more in the Yang Peak. As long as the 2 from the Yang Peak were still there, no other forces would dare to act recklessly. That's not all. According to the rumors, the Peak Master Yang Hong actually had quite an impressive background. As for how impressive it is, please don't ask me. I don't know much as well. I only heard all these from hearsay around me. Perhaps, not many people in the Yin-Yang sect know about Peak Master Yang Hong's background as well, he added. What the hell? For a moment, many of them looked at the middle-aged customer in scorn. Some even showed him their middle finger. Quickly, get to the main point. Why did you say that the Yin-Yang sect no longer exists? Well, I still must start from the time when the Peak Master and the Vice Peak Master of Yin Peak of the Yin-Yang sect went for closed-door healing. I heard that the Vice Peak Master had 3 direct disciples who were his closest sisters. All of them are beauties who could topple an entire nation. The son of Yang Peak's Peak Master fell for one of them, and so, for the sake of his son, he. Under Ka and Li Fei's gaze, the middle-aged customer blurted out their stories. In the end, he reached the part where their senior sister Yang Shui died for their sake to help them escape and survive. Although they were already mentally prepared, Ka and Li Fei's graceful and delicate bodies could not help but tremble a little as their autumn eyes watered the moment their suspicion about the death of their senior sister Yang Shui was confirmed. Senior sister. Ka gripped her little fists tightly. Her tears dripped down soundlessly but were soon evaporated from her origin energy. Brave beauties. Women should not lose to men. After the group of customers in the restaurant heard that Yang Shui did not spare sacrificing her life to save her 2 junior sisters, each of them raised a thumbs and showered her with compliments. I heard that the moment Yang Shui was killed, Yang Hong and his son immediately gave chase to her 2 junior sisters, and at this moment, a gigantic 5-colored sword ray appeared from the sky, piercing the center of the Yang Peak mountain, causing the lava within the Yang Peak to erupt. With that, it became an active volcano despite being originally dead. The middle-aged customer continued. Who's actually that daring? Many people were immediately stunned. Actually, almost every martial monarch who had sufficient strength could pierce through the Yang Peak with just a swing of their sword. However, it was one thing to be able to do it, and another to have the guts to actually pull it off. Such an action would offend the Yin-Yang sect, a formidable giant by itself. Unless one had almighty strength and was fearless toward the Yin-Yang sect, one would definitely end up dead. Well, if we're going to talk about this person who launched the attack, we've to start the story from the two women who escaped from the grip of Yang Hong and his son, the middle-aged customer continued. What does this have to do with them? Quite a number of people frowned from being perplexed, their curiosities getting the better of them. For a moment, even the two women themselves, Ka and Li Fei, who sat by the window, temporarily suppressed their sadness at the bottom of their hearts as they looked at the middle-aged man in unison. The women he was gazing at were none other than the two of them. Chapter 1161, Chapter 1162, the eldest son of the K clan. It's rumored that the powerhouse who destroyed Yang Peak was the fiancé of the two women. The middle-aged customer uttered in a single breath. Fiancé. The moment the words left the customer's mouth, the entire restaurant burst into an uproar. Young master. Ka's clear brown eyes lit up but soon dimmed again. She did not believe that her young master would have the ability to destroy Yang Peak. I can't believe that Yang Hong would actually spread such fake news to catch us. Does he really think that we'd fall for it? Li Fei's eyes gleamed brilliantly as she muttered. And then, the crowd gaped at the customer who spoke up in curiosity and asked further. Then, the young powerhouse empty-handedly snatched away the saber belonging to Yang Hong, the peak master of the Yin-Yang sect's Yang Peak, which was cast out with his full strength. In doing so, he forced Yang Hong to retreat. And then, in just one blow, he killed Yang Hong and his son. The crowd burst into mayhem once again. Yang Hong, the peak master of the Yin-Yang sect's Yang Peak, could be deemed as quite an infamous and influential person in the southern part of the inner land that was close to the Ruoxi River. Yet, such a mighty person had been killed in just one single blow. How strong exactly was that person's cultivation base? Looks like they really are spreading fake news deliberately. Ka sighed. Even though she was unwilling to believe that her young master had really come to the Yin-Yang sect in the inner land at first, she could not help but still cling on to that feeble hope of denial. Listening to the middle-aged customer now, her hopes dissipated entirely. What he had just said was just too far-fetched. It was simply impossible. He empty-handedly snatched away Yang Hong's saber with which he unleashed his full strength. How strong would that person have to be then? Even her most admired and respected master might not be able to beat Yang Hong, who unleashed his full power if she were to use her spirit weapon and exert her full strength. If her young master really was that strong, then it meant that he would have far exceeded her master. She refused to believe it no matter what. She did not even dare to believe that an ounce of this was true at all, even if her young master's innate talent and comprehension level were so high that it was out of this world. I believe the story will continue to be even more far-fetched. Li Fei muttered. Just as the words left Li Fei's mouth, the middle-aged customer had already continued his story, and so, after the young powerhouse killed Yang Hong and his son, the three high officials of Yang Peak present were frightened out of their wits. In the end, all of them asked that young powerhouse to become the sect leader of the Yin-Yang sect instead. Although the young powerhouse agreed to it, he voiced out one request, that the Yin-Yang sect be renamed to become the Ling Tian sect from now on. The middle-aged customer swept a glance at the surroundings before unfolding the story. Ling Tian sect. Ling Tian, what a delirious name. Many people were dumbfounded. If all of these are true, even if he's delirious, he's worthy enough as he possesses such immense strength that allows him to be delirious. Tell me how many people have such a powerful technique like his. He actually killed the top-notch high officials of the Yin-Yang sect and became the sect leader of the sect. Somebody interjected. Without a doubt, the emergence of the Ling Tian sect means that the Yin-Yang sect no longer exists in this world, so, now all of you understand why I said that just now, don't you? The middle-aged man asked them rhetorically. The crowds nodded their heads one by one. Since the Yin-Yang sect was now renamed as the Ling Tian sect, it confirmed the end of its existence. Perhaps, another several dozen years or even hundreds of years later, nobody would come to remember that there once was a first-rate force named the Yin-Yang sect which existed near the Ruoxi River at the southward of the inner land. This way, that young powerhouse has become the first sect leader of the Ling Tian sect, the middle-aged customer concluded. Do you know what's the name of the sect master of the Ling Tian sect? The people asked. I heard that his name is the same with the Ling Tian sects. His full name is Duan Ling Tian. The customer's eyes shone brightly as he revealed. Duan Ling Tian. At once, the crowd learned this name by heart. The new powerhouse at the southern part of the inner land of the Cloud Continent that was near the Ruo Shui River was the leader of the first-rate force, the Ling Tian sect. On top of that, I heard that the sect master of the Ling Tian sect has also issued an order. Any Ling Tian sect disciple who can find his 2 fiancés will get a grade 1 spirit weapon and a bottle of grade 1 life recovery pills, he added. The moment the group of customers in the restaurant heard this, their eyes lit up right away. A grade 1 spirit weapon. The sect master of the Ling Tian sect is really giving his all. Other than the grade 1 spirit weapon, there's another bottle of grade 1 life recovery pills. How fantastic if I could find his 2 fiancés. Who knows, I might be able to get those rewards instead. Many people piped up. HMPH. Perhaps, the rewards that he offers will only go to the Ling Tian sect disciples. After all, as the saying goes, keep the good stuff within the family. You have a point. Many of them agreed the moment they heard this. You're wrong if you think so. The middle-aged customer shook his head and chimed in. I heard that not long after that, the Ling Tian sect will release and spread the drawings of the sect leader's fiancés without restraint. By that time, the rewards will be up for grabs for everybody. The moment these words left his mouth, the eyes of everybody in the restaurant lit up. Are you serious? If that's the case, it'd be a great opportunity for us. Even though it'd be like finding a needle in a haystack, but who knows? We might luck out and happen to find his 2 fiancés. Many people were tempted by the lure of the rewards. Not only that, I heard that whoever manages to find one of the 2 fiancés of the sect master of the Ling Tian sect will be rewarded with a grade 1 spirit weapon and a bottle of grade 1 life recovery pills. If you find 2 of them, then you'll be rewarded 2 grade 1 spirit weapons and 2 bottles of grade 1 life recover pills. The middle-aged customer continued to drop his large bombs, making the entire restaurant buzz with excitement. 2 grade 1 spirit weapons. 2 bottles of grade 1 life recovery pills. It was enough to make them go into a frenzy. See, I was right, it really gets way more far-fetched in the end, Li Fei muttered as a glimmer flashed across her eyes. Sister Fair, I think it's best if we leave now. I keep having a feeling that it's not safe for us to be here. Dread rose in Ka's eyes. All right, Li Fei nodded. They did not even have time to order any food yet. Standing up, she was prepared to leave with Ka. However, as fate would have it, even if they wanted to leave, it did not mean that they could. Yo, 2 beauties, where are you guys going? A young man in his 30s strolled into the restaurant, and another middle-aged man followed suit behind him. The former displayed a cynical attitude towards life whilst the latter was faithful and attentive to his duties. The young man was staring at Ka and Li Fei with a devilish smile on his face. Beauties, why don't you take your veils off right now? Who knows, I might make you my 7th and 8th wives if I take a fancy towards you. The young man leered up and down Ka and Li Fei without any restraint. It's the eldest son of the K clan, K Pai. Looks like they're out of luck now. Not many women to whom he takes a fancy can escape his devilish snare. What a pity, Many customers were alerted by the commotion. They glanced at Ka and Li Fei with pity as all of them felt that the 2 girls had struck a bad patch. From the edge of the veil, Li Fei's exposed eyes narrowed before sweeping a cold glance at K Pai. Her red lips spat out bluntly from behind the veil, idiot. Without even waiting for K Pai to reply, she grabbed Ka's hand and pulled her outside. Stop. Seeing the 2 girls ignore him and even call him an idiot, K Pai's face darkened immediately. In a flash, he immediately blocked the 2 girls. You bitches. I was nice to you, yet you're so ungrateful. Today, I'll bring you both back and turn you into my slaves. K Pai glared at Li Fei and Ka as he hissed. You're just looking to die. Even a clay figurine had a temper, let alone Li Fei who was short-tempered. As her eyes turned cold, she advanced towards K Pai as fast as lightning. Her slender, pale hand swept out without any mercy. Bam, 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 Li Fei thrust out a palm, setting off a series of detonations in succession. In just the blink of an eye, her hand had already reached K Pai. K Pai did not even realize what was happening at all. HMPH. Almost at the same time, the middle-aged man behind K Pai snorted and charged in an attempt to block Li Fei's attack. Unfortunately, when he just made his move, Ka had also reacted at Li Fei's side. Blocking him, she cast a palm to meet his. Bam! A loud sound reverberated in the air, followed by a series of ear-piercing explosions. Then, a series of hurricanes tore out from where the two palms met and swept across the entire restaurant. Many empty tables were all blown away. Those who had a lower cultivation base were forced to squint their eyes as a result of the strong wind. Boom! Before the wave of hurricanes subsided, another wave arose. As Ka and the middle-aged man's palms met each other as equal matches, Li Fei's slender, pale hand also landed on Kai's body. To be more precise, it landed on Kai's dantian. With just a light bang, Li Fei sent Kai flying backward. Origin energy gushed out of his dantian uncontrollably like a deflating balloon. Bam! Kai crashed onto the ground violently. After smashing into a few tables and chairs, he finally came to a gradual stop. Ignoring his pain, he immediately checked his dantian. With just one check, the color drained from his face right away. My dantian is crippled. Why you're so ruthless, ruthless. Looking at Li Fei, Kai's eyes were filled with grief and anger as he continued to bellow. How dare you cripple my young master's dantian? Don't even think of escaping now. The moment the middle-aged man heard Kai's bellow that was filled with grief and wrath, his face darkened. Instantly, he pounded towards Li Fei and Ka, not even bothering to think about the fact that Ka's strength alone was already an even match for his. At that very second, he only had one thought in his mind: kill these two women. Otherwise, he would face the consequences. Unfortunately, despite both parties having already unleashed their spirit weapons, in the face of Li Fei and Ka's joined forces, it only took them one blow to kill him. The both of you, hurry up, leave. The K clan is a big household and it's also a second-rate force that takes firm root in this city. They're not somebody you two should easily offend, somebody kindly reminded Li Fei and Ka using voice transmission. The moment they heard the voice, they also started to realize the severity of the problem. With extremely grave expressions, they immediately left the restaurant and the small city. Chapter 1162, Chapter 1163, Paying a visit to the K clan in person. I can't believe that they're martial monarchs too. After Li Fei and Ka left, many people gushed. It had never crossed their minds that these two fragile-looking women actually possessed such powerful strength. Earlier, many of them had harbored evil ideas towards these two girls. However, after they saw Kai lying on the ground like a dead dog, they were overwhelmed with fear. This time, the K clan's eldest son is crippled and a martial monarch is dead. I believe that the K clan won't just leave the matter at that, somebody said with a dreadful expression. The rest of the people present agreed with him. The K clan was a second-rate force, and in the entire inner land of the Cloud Continent, it was deemed no one. However, locally, the K clan was an absolute tyrant in this small city that nobody dared to offend easily. Those who wanted to forge a relationship with the K clan proceeded to send Kai, the eldest son of the K clan, whose dantian was crippled back. This scenario caused a commotion in the entire K clan. Then, 3 of the remaining 5 martial monarchs wanted to track down Li Fei and Ka, who had crippled Kai's dantian and killed the K clan's martial monarch. Any one of the 3 martial monarchs that the K clan dispatched was more powerful than the person whom Li Fei and Ka had joined forces to kill. Among the 3, the strongest was on the 3rd-level martial monarch stage while the weakest one was on the 2nd-level martial monarch stage. Unfortunately, after half a day of searching relentlessly, they still could not find Li Fei and Ka at all. Soon, the K clan released 2 drawings. In each of the drawings was a veiled woman, and other than the area that was covered, both of their eyebrows and eyes were drawn clearly. Although the 2 of them wore veils, whoever had seen the drawings before would be able to recognize them in just one glance the moment they saw their brows and eyes, because the drawings were so similar to the real women. Coincidentally enough, on the same day when the K clan disseminated the 2 drawings, one of the female disciples from the Ling Tian sect happened to pass by and see those 2 drawings. It's junior sister Li Fei and Ka. This female disciple was also the former female disciple of the Yin Peak from the Yin Yang sect. In just one glance, she could recognize that the drawings of the veiled women were of Li Fei and Ka. After inquiring, she began to understand the whole story. How dare he touch the fiancés of our sect master? The K clan is really seeking for death, she thought to herself. However, although she had those thoughts, she did not approach the K clan to settle the issue with them. She was clear about her own limitations, and she knew that she would not be able to inflict much damage on the K clan alone. At once, she flew back to the Ling Tian sect at full speed. By the time Duan Ling Tian learned about this news, a few days had passed. Instantly, he brought the gold thug to the small city that the K-clan was situated in. The K-clan. Standing above the K-clan mansion, a sneer spread across Duan Lingtian's mouth. Master, do you want me to annihilate this K-clan? The gold thug asked. Not now, I want to see whether I'll be able to coax some information out of the K-clan's eldest son first. Perhaps, we'll find some clues that the two girls left behind. The moment Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, he landed in the K-clan grounds in a flash. Coincidentally, he landed in the large courtyard where K-Pai, the eldest son of the K-clan, stayed in. The gold thug followed behind Duan Lingtian like a shadow. Who are you? Duan Lingtian's appearance took many people by shock. Among them were K-Pai himself and the few servants who were responsible for serving him. Are you K-Pai? In the eyes of K-Pai, who was sitting at the large courtyard sunbathing, the purple-clad young man in front suddenly disappeared the moment he raised this question before reappearing in front of him again. Who are you? Horror dawned on K-Pai. At the same time, he hastily signaled to the servants beside him with his eyes. It was apparent that he wanted to ask them to call for help. This purple-clad young man gave him a solid sense of pressure. Right away, the few servants by his side immediately left the great courtyard hastily. Neither Duan Lingtian nor the gold thug who was behind him proceeded to block their paths at all. It was as though they did not see them leaving at all. Of course, with Duan Lngtien and the gold thug's abilities, it was no doubt impossible for them not to notice the few servants leaving. They just were not bothered by it. Tell me everything about the two girls that you saw a few days ago, Duan Lingtian asked nonchalantly as he studied K-Pai with a calm look. What girls? K-Pai could not put the two and two together yet because of his rising anxiety. The two girls who crippled your Dantian, Duan Lingtian reminded. Those two bitches. Just as Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, K-Pai finally came back to his senses. Instantly, he recalled the two girls whom he had met a few days ago and was immediately overcome with wrath. Subconsciously, he cursed out loud. However, the moment the words left his mouth, he immediately came to regret it. It was apparent that the purple-clad young man was there for the sake of the two girls. Now that he had cursed the two girls out loud in front of him, the man might be pissed off. Just as K-Pai thought about this, he could feel a gush of icy aura being emitted from this purple-clad young man. It soon pressed on his body in just a blink of an eye, so much so that he could hardly breathe. In the next instance, neither did he see any movement from the purple-clad young man and the golden-robed old man at all, nor did he hear anything, but he suddenly felt a heart-rending pain from his shoulder. It was so anguishing that he could not suppress the shrill shriek coming from his own mouth. When he finally realized what was happening, he noticed that one of his arms was already severed off. At once, he was so shocked that the color drained from his face. It was so painful that he broke out into a cold sweat. Why you, he glared at the purple-clad young man in front with fury. Yet, he could not utter a sound at all, or to be more precise, he dared not utter a sound at all. What a joke! This guy could chop off his arm without any sound, which meant that he could also kill him quickly and soundlessly. No matter how enraged he was, he did not dare to infuriate this guy any further anymore. Right then, he only wished that the servants who had already left would fetch help as soon as possible. Only then could he be saved. When my father gets here, I'll make him wish that he's better off dead. With the help of his concept, he pressed on his wound to stop the blood from flowing out rapidly. At the same time, there was a cold brilliance deep inside K-Pai's gaze that was about to devour a certain somebody. I don't want to repeat what I said just now. Duan Lingtian's tone was still very calm, as though he had not just crippled K-Pai's arm. The words that appeared to be calm sounded like devilish words in K-Pai's ears, causing the blood to drain from his face as he immediately replied hastily, I'll tell. I'll tell. Then, he told everything that had happened on that day out, not daring to omit or hide anything at all. After listening to K-Pai's story, Duan Lingtian did not get any clue from his words at all. Immediately, his gaze turned cold and he continued to glare at K-Pai. This man dared to be so disrespectful towards his fiancées. I've answered you. Why you can't kill me? You can't kill me. After noticing the icy glare in Duan Lingtian's eyes, K-Pai anxiously pleaded. His eyes and face were filled with despair. Just as Duan Lingtian was about to cast his move to kill K-Pai, a boisterous voice resonated from outside the large courtyard, and it was getting nearer. Who are you? How dare you act so wantonly in our K-clan? Whoosh, whoosh. Soon, two gushes of wind blew into the large courtyard. In the next instance, two men appeared beside K-Pai. One was an aged, sturdy man, while the other was an old, skinny man. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. In the next instance, another three men appeared by K-Pai's side. There was a curly-bearded man while the other two were middle-aged. Pair. After the curly-bearded man saw K-Pai's severed arm, horror dawned on his face, and he proceeded to pick up the arm to attach it back to his son's body. Boom. Unfortunately, before he could pick up the severed arm, a gust of mighty energy gushed out and crushed the severed arm into powder within seconds. That was the work of the gold thug standing behind Duan Lingtian. He had destroyed K-Pai's severed arm swiftly. You're going to hell. Instantly, the face of the curly-bearded man turned grave, and his origin energy soared out of his body. At the same time, his profundity and concepts followed like a shadow and instantly pounded towards the gold thug, unleashing all of his second-level martial monarch stage techniques. You're like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. The gold thug snorted and took a stride forward. Nobody saw him making any other move at all, but without warning, a burst of energy skyrocketed from his body and charged out towards the man. Boom. In a second, the curly-bearded man was drowned and reduced into ashes, vanishing from this world forever. A second-level martial monarch stage martial artist had died just like that without even fully understanding why. The moment K-Pai saw this, terror dawned on him as he cried out shrilly, "Father!" Clan leader. The color drained from the faces of the two middle-aged men who had appeared together with the curly-bearded men. It had never crossed their minds that this person, who had been breathing just a moment ago beside them, could turn into ashes in just a blink of an eye. There was not even a trace of a corpse or any bones left behind. Who the hell are you? Compared to the nervous energy from K-Pai and the other two, the two old men stared at Duan Lingtian and the gold thug with serious expressions as they asked with dread in their eyes. You don't even know who my master is, yet you dare to offer a reward to chase and kill my two misses. What huge guts you guys have. The gold thug stared at the two old men with a curl in the corner of his mouth. The two of you, is there any misunderstanding? The sturdy old man asked with a wry smile. Yes, perhaps it's only a misunderstanding, the skinny old man piped up too. Although the two of them were the strongest in the K-clan, they were both on the third-level martial monarch stage. They understood very well that even they could not kill their clan leader of the K-clan, who was on the second-level martial monarch stage, in just one blow. This golden-robed old man in front posed as a frightening threat to them. Misunderstanding. The gold thug snorted. With a raise of his hand, two drawings appeared in his palm, and he tossed them out casually. Are you trying to say that this is a misunderstanding? When they saw the two drawings of the veiled women, all 5 of the K-clan members, including K-Pai and the two old men, turned pale right away. Boom. The sturdy old man was the first to return to his senses. With a raise of his hand, he thrust a palm towards K-Pai and killed him straight. Without a doubt, K-Pai had been the initiator of this incident. After the sturdy old man killed K-Pai, he told Duan Lingtian and Gold Thug with an anxious look on his face, "Guys, everything regarding this is K-Pai's fault. It's unrelated to our K-clan. Now, the K-clan has already put him to death, so this is our way of apologizing to you." Chapter 1163 Chapter 1164, Chen Xiao Shuai. Duan Lingtian merely glanced at the K-clan's people who were worried. He was not bothered about them at all and he vanished without a trace before their eyes. A voice sounded in the air at the moment he disappeared. "Gold Thug, I don't want to see the K-clan ever again." "Yes, master." The K-clan's people's faces changed drastically when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. On the contrary, the Gold Thug's eyes lit up. Bang! Before the 4 remaining martial monarch powerhouses from K-clan could react, a raging milky flame rose from Gold Thug's body. 3 types of profundities trailed after it like shadows. He did not have an opportunity to fight ever since he followed Duan Lingtian to the berserk mongrel rodent clan to fight. He could not take it anymore. He felt excited now that he was presented with a chance to fight. Bang, 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 Gold Thug displayed his strength as a 6th-level martial monarch powerhouse. Those 4 people from K-clan were just at the 3rd-level martial monarch stage. Gold Thug's strength overwhelmed them and turned them into ashes. Once Gold Thug killed the K-clan's martial monarchs, it was easy for him to deal with the others from K-clan. A terrifying energy rumbled with a casual stomp of his foot. Terrifying cracks appeared on the ground of the K-clan's mansion. It looked like a spider web as it continued to spread, showing no signs of stopping. Bang, 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 the buildings in the K clan's estate collapsed one after another. It turned into a ruin in just a blink of an eye. What remained were the blood splatters on the ground and a few people who attempted to escape by flying. Naturally, it was impossible for these people to escape under Gold Thug's watch. In merely 15 minutes, apart from Gold Thug, there were no other living humans in the ruined K clan's estate. What happened to the K clan? Oh, God, who did this? This is crazy. The incident in K clan created a ruckus and was hard to ignore. Soon after, many people from the small city gathered there to see what was going on. All of them were shocked when they saw the K clan was ruined. Disbelief was written on their faces. I just passed by the K clan's estate half an hour ago, everything was fine when I passed by. The K clan fell into ruins without any survivors. Who did this? That person's ability is too terrifying. There was fear in the people's eyes as they discussed this among themselves. Everyone was still in shock about how the K clan was destroyed by someone in just half an hour when a loud and deep voice sounded from above, scaring them. Whoever tries to harm my two fiancés, I, Duan Lingtian, will end their family. K clan's just the beginning. Duan Lingtian, is that the sect master who changed the name of Yin Yang sect to the Lingtian sect? Someone regained his senses and looked at the sky. Soon after, people lifted their heads to look at the sky one after another. A purple silhouette appeared before their eyes. It was a handsome young man with straight eyebrows. He exuded an aura of elegance as his purple robe fluttered in the wind. It was as though he was one with heaven and earth. So he's sect master Duan Lingtian from the Lingtian sect. He's really as young as the rumor says. Many people exclaimed. In the next second, all they saw was a flash before the purple figure disappeared. A gold silhouette trailed after the purple silhouette like a shadow and disappeared before everyone's eyes as well. He's gone. Many people felt relieved. Although the purple-clad young man was standing far away from them high up in the sky, they felt waves of pressure. The pressure vanished along with the purple-clad young man's departure. Whoever tries to harm my two fiancés, I, Duan Lingtian, will end their family. K clan's just the beginning. Soon after, the people present recalled Duan Lingtian's words. Based on the sect master of Lingtian sect's words, it seems like K clan did something to his two fiancés. Many of them speculated among themselves. Really, is the K clan so daring? Most of them found it hard to believe. One must know that the news about the sect master of Lingtian, Duan Lingtian, looking for his two fiancés had spread to the city they lived in. They believed the K clan must have heard about the news too. Did the K clan really have the guts to go against Duan Lingtian and offend the Lingtian sect? Oh, soon after, someone speculated, from what I know, the K clan conducted a big search a couple of days ago to look for the two veiled ladies who severed the K clan's young master's cultivation base. Do you think the two ladies are the sect master of Lingtian sect's fiancés? FWAH. After that person spoke, the people broke into an uproar. That's possible. That can't be. I've seen the two veiled ladies at a restaurant before. If they're really the sect master of Lingtian sect's fiancés, they should know that the sect master of Lingtian sect is looking for them. Logically, they should have returned to the Lingtian sect. But, Lingtian sect had just sent out the paintings today, so it's clear that the fiancés of the sect master of Lingtian sect have yet to return. Who has the paintings? Soon after, someone took out the two paintings from Lingtian sect. It was the paintings of two beautiful ladies. It's really them. Soon after, someone else took out another two paintings. It was the paintings that K clan sent out. Although the two ladies in the paintings had veils on their faces, their eyebrows and eyes looked exactly like the beautiful ladies in the paintings from Lingtian sect. That means, they've yet to return to the Lingtian sect. The ladies must be throwing a tantrum since they're unwilling to return. Whether they're throwing a tantrum or not, since they've yet to return, that means we still have a chance of finding them. That's right, the people became excited as though they were injected with chicken's blood and rushed out of the city one after another. It was as though they could already see the grade 1 spirit weapon and grade 1 medicinal pill beckoning to them. The city was extra crowded today. On the other hand, the news about Duan Lingtian, the sect master of Lingtian sect, destroying the K clan for his women quickly spread out. Some people called Duan Lingtian cold-blooded and ruthless. Some of them said Duan Lingtian was honorable. He did not mind killing to avenge his women. No matter what, Duan Lingtian was famous now. Whoever tries to harm my two fiancés, I, Duan Lingtian, will end their family. K-clan's just the beginning. Duan Lingtian's words became the topic of conversations. Suddenly, all the single ladies from the Ruo Shui River area on the south of the inner land had their hearts set on Duan Lingtian, the sect master of Lingtian sect, even though they have never met him. As a woman, I'll die without regrets if I can be the wife of the sect master of Lingtian sect. As the news spread out, apart from those single virgins, even a group of sulky, married women had their hearts set on Duan Lingtian. That's a man. That's a real man. If anyone destroys a clan for me like the sect master of Lingtian sect, I'll definitely abandon my husband and marry him. It was proven that women's power was boundless. In just a short while, the women put Duan Lingtian in the limelight. He became the most desirable lover in the Ruo Shui River area on the south of the inner land. I'll definitely marry the sect master of Lingtian sect if I were born 70 years earlier. Even some old ladies with a foot in the grave often said such words. The news spread like a tornado to the Lingtian sect. Duan Lingtian was speechless when he heard the news. These women are ridiculous. Duan Lingtian shook his head helplessly. He did not expect the words he said in anger would carry so much weight. What, are the both of you taking pleasure from my misery? Duan Lingtian turned around quickly as though he had eyes on his back. He stared angrily at Shang Quan and Gold Thug who were snickering behind him. Meanwhile, Feng Tianwu stood at the side. Her eyes were reserved as she looked at Duan Lingtian. I wonder if he would do the same for me, Feng Tianwu thought to herself. Sect Master, someone at the door wants to see you. He claims to be your friend. A loud voice in the distance sounded suddenly. Shang Quan and Gold Thug felt relieved. The man's arrival had gotten them out of trouble. My friend. Duan Lingtian shifted his attention to the incoming person. It was an old man. He was a 4th-level martial monarch and a Lingtian sect's elder. The old man was respectful when he met Duan Lingtian. He did not dare to be careless. Yes, that's what he said. The old man nodded respectfully. Did he say what his name is? Duan Lingtian asked curiously. He said he's Chen Xiaoshuai. He said as soon as I tell Sect Master his name, Sect Master will, the old man continued to speak. However, he was interrupted by Duan Lingtian before he could finish his sentence. Duan Lingtian looked at the old man and asked solemnly, are you sure he said he's Chen Xiaoshuai? Yes. The old man nodded. Where's he now? Duan Lingtian asked urgently. Chen Xiaoshuai was Sword Young Master, one of the 5 great young masters in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. During the competition among the young geniuses in the Darkstone Empire, Chen Xiaoshuai did not get into the martial competition. Although he failed to get himself a place in the martial competition, he decided to explore the world on his own. Ever since then, Duan Lingtian did not hear about him again. Crazy young Master Luo Zan left with Sword Young Master Chen Xiaoshuai back then. Since then, Duan Lingtian did not hear about Luo Zan as well. It was odd that someone would come uninvited and claim to be Chen Xiaoshuai. Chapter 1164 Chapter 1165, Luo Zan's dead. Led by the Lingtian sect's elder, Duan Lingtian soon saw a silhouette standing in the distance. The silhouette stood as straight as a spear, emitting a haughty aura. The familiar face had turned more sorrowful now after years of not seeing each other. The man's frivolity was no longer there. It had been replaced by stability and maturity instead. He seemed like a new man now. Why are you here? Duan Lingtian greeted the familiar silhouette in the distance with a warm and charming smile before he even arrived near him. The familiar silhouette before him was none other than Chen Xiaoshuai. Back when they were still at the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he and Sword Young Master Chen Xiaoshuai clicked and became friends. Duan Lingtian was happy to see him again after so many years, even though he was a little surprised to see him here. This was the inner land on Cloud Continent. Even you're here, so why can't I be here? A fierce aura permeated the air. In a blink of an eye, Chen Xiaoshuai disappeared from where he was standing and appeared before Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian, it's been a while. Yes, it's been a while. I didn't think you'll be in the inner land since you didn't even secure a place in the martial competition. I'm sure your cultivation base is terrifying now, Duan Lingtian spoke slowly. There was a hint of surprise on his face. Some great encounters led me here. I was so happy because I thought a freak like you would be far behind me now. I didn't expect that you're still the same. You're still more powerful than I am, Chen Xiaoshui could not help but exclaim as he observed Duan Lingtian. Seems like you really did have some great encounters. You're already at the 3rd level martial monarch stage now, Duan Lingtian said as he looked into Chen Xiaoshuai's eyes. He had extended his spiritual energy out earlier and detected that Chen Xiaoshui's current cultivation base was at the 3rd level martial monarch stage. Duan Lingtian was surprised when he found out. You can see through my cultivation base in just a glance, you really live up to your name, Chen Xiaoshui exclaimed. He did not seem surprised. But so what if I'm at the 3rd level martial monarch stage? I still can't compare to you. You're so great now. Not only did you become Prince Charming to all the women in the border, but you're also the sect master of Lingtian sect, a first-rate force. I heard you killed the old peak master of Yang sect from Yin Yang sect, Yang Hong. From what I know, Yang Hong was the best among all the 8th level martial monarchs. Chen Xiaoshuai's gaze turned more and more complicated as he spoke. He remembered Duan Lingtian was a total monster back when they were at the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. His journey was tough after they parted ways at the Darkstone Empire. He had some great encounters that allowed him to elevate his cultivation base. He was traveling before he crossed the Ruo Shui River and arrived at the Inner Land, the central zone of Cloud Continent, where many powerhouses gather. Initially, he thought Duan Lingtian would be far behind him now. However, the news he heard shocked him. Lingtian sect. Duan Lingtian. In the beginning, he thought the sect master of Lingtian sect, Duan Lingtian, merely had the same name as the monster he knew back in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. However, his instinct told him there was a high possibility that this Duan Lingtian was the monster he knew. That was the reason he came here. He wanted to dispel his doubts. The truth proved that his instinct was right. The sect master of Lingtian sect, Duan Lingtian, was the same friend he knew back in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom. You're really up to date with the news. Duan Lingtian smiled. He was in a good mood seeing his old friend again. Do I really need to be up to date to hear about the news? Chen Xiaoshui rolled his eyes at Duan Lingtian. You're a famous person in the border now. I heard many single virgins are planning to join your Lingtian sect. I'm sure you know what their objectives are. The drinker's heart is not in the cup, one Chen Xiaoshui said with a smirk. Oh, right, you left with Luo Zan back then. Did both of you part ways after that? Duan Lingtian ignored Chen Xiaoshui's words completely and steered the topic in a different direction. Duan Lingtian's harmless words made Chen Xiaoshui shudder. The expression on his face turned ugly. What's wrong? Duan Lingtian turned solemn. An ominous feeling rose from within. Luo Zan's dead. Chen Xiaoshui finally spoke. His voice was gloomy and subdued. Dead. Duan Lingtian's expression changed drastically as he narrowed his eyes. What happened? How did he die? Luo Zan, or Crazy Young Master, was the leader of the 5 great young masters of Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom back then. They were close friends. He was the grandson of the guild master of the Weapons Craftsman Guild's main guild in the Azure Forest Imperial. He had helped Duan Lingtian a lot. It was difficult for him to imagine how agonizing it must be for the old man when he heard about Luo Zan's death. It's my fault. Nobody knew when tears began to stream down Chen Xiaoshui's face as his body trembled. Luo Zan and I were heading north at that time. We passed by the Darken Dynasty and Darming Dynasty before eventually arriving at the Northern Desert Land. We continued on with our journey after leaving the Northern Desert Land. By fate, we came across the secret treasure left behind by a martial emperor. We managed to successfully enter the place. We found many treasures when we were in there, like spirit fruits, concept fragments, and profundity fragments. We obtained many of those things, but we also encountered at least 10 inscription formations. However, we activated the last inscription formation left behind by the Martial Emperor powerhouse just as we were leaving. It was a killing formation. Luo Zan discovered the killing formation first and pushed me out of the range of the formation. He missed the opportunity to escape because of that and was killed by the killing formation. Chen Xiaoshui's face turned a little ferocious as he spoke to this point. If it wasn't for saving me, he wouldn't be dead, he would be alive. Luo Zan. Duan Lingtian took a deep breath and closed his eyes slowly. Based on Sword Young Master Chen Xiaoshui's words, if Luo Zan was still alive, his current ability would not be inferior to Duan Lingtian. Don't beat yourself up. Since Luo Zan saved you, you have to live well for his sake, Duan Lingtian said as he looked at Chen Xiaoshui, who was obviously in pain. I know, I'll live well and do the things he wanted to do but never had a chance to. Hopefully, he'll be able to rest in peace. Chen Xiaoshui nodded. His chaotic emotion calmed down because of this. So what do you plan to do now? Duan Lingtian asked. I've no idea, I've just arrived in the inner land not too long ago. Chen Xiaoshuai shook his head. Why don't you stay in my Lingtian sect? I'll grant you the position of an elder, Duan Lingtian said with a smile. A Lingtian sect's elder? Chen Xiaoshuai's eyes lit up when he heard that. That's interesting, sure, I'll stay at your Lingtian sect for now. You can stay at Lingtian sect, but I'll need you to make an oath, Duan Lingtian said as he looked at Chen Xiaoshuai cautiously. Back when they were in the Azure Forest Imperial Kingdom, he remembered Chen Xiaoshuai would spend most of his time at brothels. He would not be satisfied without women. Half of Lingtian's sect consisted of female disciples. Duan Lingtian did not want Chen Xiaoshuai to do anything humiliating in his Lingtian sect. What oath should I make? Chen Xiaoshuai was stunned. He forced a smile and rolled his eyes at Duan Lingtian at the same time when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. I won't misbehave in Lingtian's sect no matter how much I desire a lady, I'll have to take care of your reputation even if I don't care about mine. It's good that you think like that. Duan Lingtian nodded with satisfaction. Let's go. I'll introduce you to some people, Duan Lingtian said to Chen Xiaoshuai before he brought him to meet Feng Tianwu, Shang Quan, and Gold Thug. It was worth mentioning that Chen Xiaoshuai stared unabashedly at Feng Tianwu for 10 breaths' time when he met her. Feng Tianwu was just too stunning with her beautiful face. He only stopped staring at her after he discovered Feng Tianwu's eyes were on Duan Lingtian all the time. So she's Duan Lingtian's woman. Chen Xiaoshui was secretly envious. I'll bring him to see Luo Ping. Duan Lingtian left with Chen Xiaoshuai to look for Luo Ping after informing Feng Tianwu and the other two. Although Luo Ping was only one of Lingtian's sect's 3 vice sect masters, she was undoubtedly Duan Lingtian's most trustworthy vice sect master. She was responsible for all the daily major and minor matters in the Lingtian sect. She was the only vice sect master who could represent Duan Lingtian. After leaving Chen Xiaoshuai with Luo Ping, Duan Lingtian returned to Feng Tianwu and the other two. Both of you, spread the news, tell people that Lingtian sect is recruiting grade 1 weapons craftsmen and grade 1 alchemists. Yes, young master. Yes, master. Shang Quan and Gold Thug left after they replied Duan Lingtian. I'm afraid no grade 1 weapons craftsmen and grade 1 alchemists would be willing to come if you spread the news this way, Feng Tianwu said softly to Duan Lingtian after Shang Quan and Gold Thug left. The frost on her face had melted a little. I know, that's why we've something more important to handle, Duan Lingtian said with a smile. Something more important? Feng Tianwu was happy when she heard Duan Lingtian's words even though she was a little skeptical. He wanted her to handle the most important thing. It proved that she held a high position in Duan Lingtian's heart. You'll find out very soon. Duan Lingtian smiled and left her in suspense. Soon after, he left the Lingtian sect together with Feng Tianwu. He was bringing Feng Tianwu to deal with the most important thing now. Insignia one basically means someone with an insincere heart. A Chinese idiom. Chapter 1165 Chapter 1166, Ataraxia City, Zhou Clan's Auction Square. There was a big and bustling city in an area close to the southern side of Ruo Shui River in the inner land on Cloud Continent. The big city was called Ataraxia City. Everything seemed peaceful in this city, there were almost no fights at all. If somebody got into a fight, they would be carried away by a group of powerful, law enforcers. Nobody knew what happened to those people who were brought away since they were never seen again. The group of law enforcers who brought those people away was from the Zhou clan in Ataraxia City. Zhou clan was the #1 clan in Ataraxia City. It was also a first-rate force. Not only did they guard Ataraxia City, but they also controlled half of the properties in Ataraxia City. The other half of the properties in Ataraxia City was controlled by a few first-rate forces. One of them was the old Yin-Yang sect, currently known as the Lingtian sect. Outside Ataraxia City, 2 silhouettes followed the crowd and entered the city. It was a young couple who looked like Romeo and Juliet. Very quickly, they became the center of attention. What a handsome young man. The lady next to him is so beautiful. She's a real beauty. Many people whispered among themselves. The 2 figures who had just entered Ataraxia City was Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu who left Lingtian's sect earlier in the morning. Although Duan Lingtian was the sect master of Lingtian sect and his name was known by everyone in the border, not many people have seen him before. Therefore, nobody recognized him in the crowded Ataraxia City street. You didn't find any useful clues when you went there previously. Feng Tianwu's question seemed random. However, Duan Lingtian knew what she was asking about. They're careful, they didn't leave any trails behind. Feng Tianwu fell silent. After a while, she said, you'll definitely see them again. Duan Lingtian nodded. There was a hint of concern in his eyes. Tianwu, do you know why are we here? Duan Lingtian looked at Feng Tianwu and quickly changed the subject. Zhou Clan, the big auction fair. Although Feng Tianwu was stingy with her words, she hit the nail on the head. Duan Lingtian was stunned, and he could not help but force a smile on his face. How did you figure that out? Many people were talking about it when we were entering the city, Feng Tianwu said bluntly. She heard many people discussing the big auction fair happening at the Zhou Clan's auction square today when they entered the city. That was why she suspected Duan Lingtian's intention for this trip was to attend the big auction fair that was held every 3 months at the Zhou Clan's auction square. I didn't expect you to be so attentive, Duan Lingtian exclaimed, that's right. The Zhou Clan's big auction fair is the purpose of our trip. I've been waiting for this day for many days now. There was only one auction fair in Ataraxia City. The auction fair was controlled by the Zhou Clan. They would hold a big auction every 3 months. Meanwhile, they would have small auction fairs every day. After learning about the existence of Ataraxia City and the Zhou Clan a couple of days ago, Duan Lingtian had been waiting for this day to come when he found out about the big auction fair that Zhou Clan organized every 3 months. The day finally came. Let's go. Let's head to the Zhou Clan's auction square. The auction fair will start in an hour, Duan Lingtian said to Feng Tianwu and headed straight after turning right. Although it was his first time in Ataraxia City, he seemed familiar with the roads. Even Feng Tianwu was stunned. Have you been here before? No, it's my first time here, Duan Lingtian said honestly. He was familiar with the roads because Luo Ping had prepared a map of the entire Ataraxia City for him a couple of days ago. It marked the properties in Ataraxia City, including the one Lingtian sect owned, as well as the location of the Zhou Clan's auction square. Duan Lingtian knew the layout of the place by heart. It was only natural that he knew the way to the Zhou Clan's auction square like the back of his hand since he had memorized the route. Feng Tianwu nodded lightly after she heard Duan Lingtian's words. I heard the Zhou Clan's auction square is different from the usual auction space. It's an al fresco auction square, Duan Lingtian said to Feng Tianwu along the way. Soon after, Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu arrived outside the Zhou Clan's auction square. There was a crowd gathered there. Most of them were just there to watch while some of them were here to participate in the auction. We're going over there. Duan Lingtian brought Feng Tianwu to the other side. At this moment, individual pavilions appeared before their eyes. A broad path made of limestone in the middle allowed people to walk freely. Soon after, Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu arrived before the limestone path's entrance. They saw 2 pretty ladies standing on each side of the entrance. They had a smile on their faces. Although their clothing was plain, they looked elegant. One of the ladies looked at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu and asked with a smile, Sir and Madam, may I know if you're planning on auctioning anything? Her voice was as sweet as an oriole. I'm auctioning 2 items. Duan Lingtian nodded. May I know what items you are auctioning? The auction fair's starting soon. You're not allowed to auction ordinary items now, the lady asked. She was undoubtedly implying that the Zhou Clan's auction fair would not auction ordinary items. I would like to auction off a grade 1 spirit weapon and grade 1 life recovery pill, Duan Lingtian said calmly. He seemed unaffected by the lady's words. Grade 1 spirit weapon, grade 1 life recovery pill. I'm really sorry, sir. The Zhou Clan's only auctioning items that are worthy of being in the finale, the lady said apologetically. In her opinion, although grade 1 spirit weapons were precious, it did not qualify as an item worthy of the auction fair that was held every 3 months at the Zhou Clan's auction square. A grade 1 life recovery pill was even less qualified. It seemed like Duan Lingtian had already expected the lady's reaction since he was not surprised. He said calmly, what if it's a grade 1 spirit weapon that gives a 90% boost and a grade 1 life recovery pill with more than 90% purity? FWAH. Duan Lingtian's words reverberated in the air. The 2 ladies standing before him narrowed their eyes. They looked solemn now. Sir, can you bring out your grade 1 spirit weapon so that I can examine it? If it's really like you said, I'll bring you backstage to get someone to verify the grade 1 life recovery pill that you brought. One of the ladies did not really believe Duan Lingtian's words. She said that to put Duan Lingtian in his place so that he would leave. The boost a grade 1 spirit weapon granted could be tested by any martial artists with the origin energy in their bodies. However, the purity of grade 1 life recovery pills had to be verified by a professional alchemist. Of course, Duan Lingtian knew very well that if he rejected the lady's request, they would think he was a fraud. It was unlikely the lady believed he had a grade 1 spirit weapon that granted a 90% boost. Therefore, he casually placed the grade 1 spirit weapon that he prepared in the lady's hand. It was a grade 1 spirit sword that Duan Lingtian casually refined a few days back. It would grant the user a 90% boost in power. The lady thought she would be able to get rid of Duan Lingtian. However, she was stunned when Duan Lingtian took out the grade 1 spirit weapon. However, as a Zhou clan's auction squares personnel, she quickly regained her composure and took the grade 1 spirit weapon from Duan Lingtian. Whoosh! When the lady swung the sword, it produced the crisp sound of sword whistling in the air. At this moment, a gust of origin energy came out of the lady's hand and merged with the grade 1 spirit sword. FWAH! Out of nowhere, 1,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared above the lady's head, displaying her cultivation base at the 7th level void transformation stage. Soon after, the heaven and earth phenomenon appeared next to the 1,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. There were another 900 ancient horned dragon silhouettes, not more and not less. 90% boost. The other lady's bright eyes turned serious. Shock was written all over her face as she witnessed the scene before her eyes. Meanwhile, the lady testing the grade 1 spirit sword was dumbstruck. She did not think there really was a grade 1 spirit weapon in the world that could grant a 90% boost. The ladies very quickly regained their composure. After exchanging a look, the lady who tested out the grade 1 spirit sword returned the sword in her hand to Duan Lingtian. Her attitude underwent a 180 degrees change. "Sir, madam, this way please." The lady led Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu along the limestone path after she spoke. There were many people sitting in the pavilions on both sides of the limestone path. It was obvious they were here for the auction fair at the Zhou clan's auction square today. Along the way, Duan Lingtian was looking around curiously at the Zhou clan's auction square. The Zhou clan's auction fair looked lavish yet elegant. The ambiance was not stifling. Instead, the ambiance was quite cheerful. At the end of the limestone path was the Zhou clan's auction fair's high platform. It was the auction stage. At the back of the auction stage, 2 red cloths similar to curtains hung on a steel frame that was prepared beforehand. The backstage of the Zhou clan's auction fair lay beyond the red cloths. "This way please." However, the lady who brought Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu in did not lead them backstage through the red cloths. They would undoubtedly draw everyone's attention if they did that. At that time, everyone at the square would know that Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu were here to auction their items. Just like the saying went, "Don't show your cards. Nothing good would come out of it." The lady led Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu around the stage. After taking a few hidden turns, they eventually entered a quiet tunnel and successfully arrived at the backstage of the auction square. However, it was only considered the outer ring of the auction square's backstage as the space was isolated by a couple of red cloths on steel frames. It gave off a sense of mystery. This should be where they serve people who are auctioning their items, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. Soon after, Duan Lingtian was proven right. Chapter 1166 Chapter 1167, Zhou. "Sir and madam, please give me a moment," the lady who brought Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu here said to them before she parted the red cloths and walked in. At this moment, Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu were the only people left outside. They waited patiently. They even set up a soundproof inscription formation. Duan Lingtian extended his spiritual energy out. He discovered the big shed made of steel frames and covered with red cloths had a simple inscription formation. It was not difficult for Duan Lingtian to discover it was an inscription formation to soundproof the place. It was bright in the big shed. One could see many silhouettes busy working here and there. The lady who had recently parted ways with Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu was stopped by a man as soon as she walked in. The man asked in his deep voice, "Why are you here? Do you not know the rules?" "Vice Manager Zhou." The lady bowed immediately when she saw the man. The man was one of the vice managers of the Zhou clan's auction fair. He was in charge of keeping the auction fair in order and dealing with troublemakers. "I'm asking you, why are you here at a time like this?" Jolie asked impatiently. There are 2 guests here. They want to auction off 2 items at the auction fair today, the lady immediately said. Oh, Jolie's eyes lit up when he heard the lady's words. At this time, the Zhou clan's auction fair would only accept items that were worth being in the finale. Since the lady brought guests with items to auction at this time, it meant that the 2 items were outstanding. Bring me to them, Jolie said to the lady. Yes. Although Jolie was not responsible for this part of the auction, the lady did not dare to reject his request. She brought him to them immediately. Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu, who were waiting outside, saw the lady come out after a while. A man followed behind her. Sir and madam, this is the vice manager of our Zhou clan's auction fair, Jolie. The lady introduced Jolie to Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu as she looked at them. At this moment, Jolie's eyes were trained on Feng Tianwu. He could not take his eyes off her. It was his first time seeing such a beauty. Jolie only looked away when Feng Tianwu furrowed her beautiful eyebrows. He said with a smile, I wonder what items both of you are planning to auction off. She didn't tell you, Duan Lingtian asked as he glanced at Jolie. Jolie looked at the lady next to him. Vice Manager Jolie, both of them want to auction off a grade 1 spirit weapon and a grade 1 life recovery pill. So, before the lady could explain how extraordinary the items were, Jolie interrupted her in his deep voice, grade 1 spirit weapon. Grade 1 life recovery pill. Jolie looked at the lady in anger. Is this your first day working at our Zhou clan's auction fair? Don't you know that the big auction fair that's only held once every 3 months don't accept any items that are not worthy of the finale right before the auction starts? Or do you think a grade 1 spirit weapon and grade 1 life recovery pill are items worthy of being in our big auction fair that only happens once every 3 months? Jolie questioned the lady again and again. His tone became more and more impolite as he went on. A grade 1 spirit weapon and a grade 1 life recovery pill. They were considered precious items, but some of the well-known forces in the inner land could obtain them as long as they were willing to pay more origin stones. Although it was more difficult to obtain grade 1 spirit weapons than obtaining grade 1 medicinal pills, it was not impossible to obtain them. Therefore, these 2 items were deemed unworthy of being in the Zhou clan's big auction fair that was held once every 3 months. Vice Manager Jolie, the grade 1 spirit weapon they brought is different from the usual ones. Faced with Jolie's continuous questions, the lady did not have the chance to speak up. Her cheeks flushed. HMPH, how different can they be? Jolie scoffed. The grade 1 spirit weapon that this sir and madam brought is a grade 1 spirit weapon that grants a 90% boost in power, the lady explained immediately. A grade 1 spirit weapon that granted a 90% boost in power. She had already tested it out. Jolie's eyes widened a little when he heard the lady's words. He looked at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu immediately. His face that was previously somber had a charming smile. Sir and madam, I wonder if I can examine your grade 1 spirit weapon? Jolie asked. Duan Lingtian glanced at Jolie before he took out the grade 1 spirit sword and passed it to Jolie casually. After obtaining the grade 1 spirit sword, Jolie began to test it out. Eventually, he discovered the grade 1 spirit weapon indeed granted a 90% boost in power. One must know that the usual grade 1 spirit weapons that gave 87% power boost were considered good, and grade 1 spirit weapons that gave 88% power boost were rare. A grade 1 spirit weapon with 89% power boost was considered a supreme grade while 90% power boost was the best of the best. Jolie's breath quickened when he looked at the grade 1 spirit sword carefully. Best of the best, Jolie began to caress the grade 1 spirit sword's body in his hands. It seemed as though he was caressing a lover instead of a cold object. Perhaps one would think a grade 1 spirit weapon like this was similar to the regular ones since the boost in strength was a just little more compared to regular grade 1 spirit weapons, but the value of this grade 1 spirit weapon was not entirely reliant on how much of a boost it could give to a martial artist. A grade 1 spirit weapon that gave 90% power boost was rare. It was undoubtedly an extremely precious item, especially to some grade 1 weapons craftsmen. It might even be possible for one to lure a grade 1 weapons craftsman into making 100 grade 1 spirit weapons with this spirit weapon that gave a 90% boost in power. A grade 1 spirit weapon like that was definitely a treasure to grade 1 weapons craftsmen. There was a chance they could learn to craft grade 1 spirit weapons that gave a 90% boost if they could study it. If they were successful, their names would spread far and wide on Cloud Continent, and it would be remembered for an eternity. Grade 1 weapons craftsmen did not lack anything. The only thing they lacked was a moment to make a mark on history. They would be able to enjoy the glory, and many would remember them for hundreds and thousands of years at least before they were forgotten. They would have no regrets in their lives. Your vice manager Zhou Li, right? Is my grade 1 spirit sword worthy of being in your Zhou clan's auction fair now? Duan Lingtian asked as he glanced at Zhou Li. Yes, of course. Zhou Li nodded immediately. He looked at Duan Lingtian with bright eyes as he asked, I heard that both of you are also auctioning a grade 1 life recovery pill. Can you bring it out so I can verify it? After Zhou Li saw the grade 1 spirit weapon that granted a 90% boost in power, he was eager to have a look at the grade 1 life recovery pill. He had a strong feeling that the grade 1 life recovery pill was just as extraordinary as the grade 1 spirit weapon in his hands. It was unlikely that it was a regular grade 1 life recovery pill. Duan Lingtian shook his head after he looked at Zhou Li. It's better if you get an alchemist to do that. Sir, Vice Manager Zhou Li is an alchemist, the lady next to Zhou Li said. Zhou Li revealed a proud smile on his face. However, his smile froze soon after due to Duan Lingtian's words. You're an alchemist, which grade? Duan Lingtian looked at Zhou Li. He frowned as he said, we'll need at least a grade 2 alchemist to see the purity of a grade 1 medicinal pill. Sir, I'm a grade 3 alchemist. Although I can't see the purity of a grade 1 medicinal pill, I can still get a rough feel of it, Zhou Li said after he took a deep breath. A grade 3 alchemist? Duan Lingtian frowned even harder now. After a while, he said calmly, never mind then, I'll put up with it. Never mind, put up with it. Zhou Li's lips twitched. He held back the rage rising from within and tried his best to force a smile on his face. Sir, please show me the medicinal pill so that I can verify it. Whoosh. Duan Lingtian lifted his arm to toss the grade 1 life recovery pill to Zhou Li. After grabbing the grade 1 life recovery pill, Zhou Li began to examine the pill meticulously. His eyes changed from looking lost to shocked. All this happened in a blink of an eye. A grade 1 life recovery pill with more than 90% purity. Zhou Li exclaimed out loud. The lady standing next to him was also shocked. A grade 1 medicinal pill with more than 90% purity. Such grade 1 medicinal pills really existed. Although the boost of the spirit weapon was significant compared to regular spirit weapons, the value of a grade 1 spirit weapon that gave more than a 90% power boost lay more with the grade 1 weapon's craftsman's desire to obtain it. However, a grade 1 life recovery pill with more than 90% purity did not only have the same value as the spirit weapon that could give a 90% boost. Its medicinal efficacy was a few folds more than regular grade 1 life recovery pills. Such grade 1 medicinal pills could save lives during critical moments. It could do what a regular grade 1 life recovery pill could not do. In terms of value, this grade 1 life recovery pill with more than 90% purity was far more valuable than the grade 1 spirit weapon that granted a 90% boost in power. Sir, may I know where did you obtain this grade 1 life recovery pill? Are there more pills? Zhou Li stared at Duan Lingtian urgently. A hint of greed flashed in the depth of his eyes. Chapter 1167 Chapter 1168, Accusation. Although the flash of greed in Zhou Li's eyes disappeared as soon as it appeared, Duan Lingtian did not miss it since he was observant. No more. Duan Lingtian shook his head at Zhou Li's question. I found these 2 items in a ruins, I looked everywhere back then but didn't find anything else. Do you mean, you only have 1 spirit weapon and 1 medicinal pill? He asked Duan Lingtian. He looked into his eyes while he thought about the grade 1 spirit sword and grade 1 life recovery pill in his hands. Yes. Duan Lingtian nodded stiffly. However, there was a subtle smirk on the edge of his lips. As soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking, a quaint copper mirror appeared in Zhou Li's hand. He immediately pointed it at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu. Demon Revelation Mirror. Duan Lingtian could tell with just a glance that the copper mirror in Zhou Li's hand was not a normal mirror. It was a mirror that showed a demon's true form. Soon after, Zhou Li looked at the copper mirror. A charming smile appeared on his face when he saw the human man and woman reflected in the mirror. They're not demons. He was finally certain the young couple before his eyes were not demons but humans. One of them was approximately 25 years old while the other was in her early 20s. Such humans would not have outstanding abilities no matter how talented and how powerful their comprehension was. Vice Manager Zhou Li. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes when Zhou Li was putting the demon revelation mirror away. His tone was much colder now. Don't you think it's impolite to point the demon revelation mirror at someone? The demon revelation mirror was not rare on Cloud Continent even though it was very useful. It could discern if someone was a demon or not. If a demon looked into the mirror would show its true form. No one would randomly point a demon revelation mirror at someone else since it was considered rude. Impolite. Zhou Li was stunned when he heard Duan Lingtian's words before a grin formed on his face. Do I need to be polite when talking to frauds like both of you? Frauds. Duan Lingtian narrowed his eyes when he heard Zhou Li's words. Meanwhile, Feng Tianwu who stood next to Duan Lingtian was emitting a terrifyingly cold aura. Her beautiful face had also turned colder. Even the lady next to Zhou Li was surprised when Zhou Li lifted his arm and put the Grade 1 Spirit Sword and Grade 1 Life Recovery Pill in his hand away in his spatial ring. If both of you want to live, run as far as you can. Zhou Li shouted. His eyes revealed killing intent as he looked at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu. It was obvious that Zhou Li was robbing Duan Lingtian's Grade 1 Spirit Weapon and Grade 1 Life Recovery Pill in broad daylight. The reason he pointed the demon revelation mirror at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu earlier was to make sure both of them were not demons. Since they were not demons, they were harmless. Now he could openly steal the items they were planning to auction off as though it was a matter of course. Zhou Li ignored Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu after he was done speaking. He looked at the lady who was standing next to him and calmly said, "Follow me." The lady turned a little pale when she heard that, but she obediently followed Zhou Li into the auction fair's backstage. "I want him dead," Feng Tianwu said coldly and took a step forward. She was ready to chase after him. "You're no match for him." Duan Lingtian extended his arm and grabbed Feng Tianwu's hand to stop her. "It's not difficult to make someone return something that belongs to me, Duan Lingtian mumbled softly as his eyes gleamed. His voice was cold. Feng Tianwu turned around to look at him. Whoosh. Subsequently, Duan Lingtian took the lead and entered the auction fair's backstage. Feng Tianwu followed behind him. At this time, both of them were instantly thrust into the limelight since it was obvious they were outsiders. They were strangers to the people at the Zhou clan's auction fair. "Who are you?" many people asked while frowning. "Who are we?" Duan Lingtian smirked. His eyes were trained on Zhou Li who was standing at the side, and he calmly said, "You'll have to ask Vice Manager Zhou Li about this." Whoosh, 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 Zhou Li instantly became the center of attention. Soon after, a dignified old man in silver robe took a step forward and looked at Zhou Li. He looked annoyed and asked Zhou Li with a frown, "What's happening, Zhou Li?" "Manager," Zhou Li did not dare to delay as he greeted the silver-robed old man respectfully. The silver-robed old man was the manager of the Zhou clan's auction fair. After greeting the silver-robed old man, Zhou Li looked at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu calmly and said, "They're just frauds. I'll get rid of them right away." He did not seem surprised at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu's appearance. Zhou Li stared at them coldly and said slowly, "I wanted to let both of you go. Since you're asking for death, I'll fulfill your wish." His voice revealed a hint of killing intent. "Deal with this quickly, the auction will begin in half an hour." "Don't complicate the situation," the silver-robed old man said as he glanced at Zhou Li. "Yes," Zhou Li responded immediately and looked at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu. His eyes were filled with killing intent. "If the Zhou clan doesn't hand over my things today and give me a reasonable answer, don't even think about having this auction ever again at the Zhou clan's auction square." Duan Lingtian looked calm as he faced a ferocious-looking Zhou Li. However, his voice was filled with arrogance, and he did not bother to tone it down at all. "FWAH." Duan Lingtian's words reverberated in the air. The faces of everyone in the auction fair's backstage, including silver-robed old man, changed immediately. They were glaring furiously at Duan Lingtian. A threat, that was a naked threat. This purple-clad young man was threatening their Zhou clan's auction fair and their Zhou clan. "You're dead, brat." Zhou Li's face turned somber as the killing intent in his eyes intensified. He was getting ready to attack Duan Lingtian as he moved. Whoosh. However, a silhouette appeared out of thin air before Duan Lingtian and blocked Zhou Li's way. He stopped moving immediately. "Manager, what are you doing?" A silver silhouette was standing before Duan Lingtian at the moment. It was the Zhou clan's auction fair's manager, the silver-robed old man. He looked at Duan Lingtian and questioned in his deep voice, "Are you threatening our Zhou clan?" "You can say that," Duan Lingtian casually replied the silver-robed old man. He did not seem worried about what the Zhou clan might do to him. "You're very daring," the silver-robed old man said. I don't think I'm daring, I'm trying to be reasonable. I believe the Zhou clan is a righteous clan and will not harbor a parasite in the clan, Duan Lingtian said as he looked pointedly at Zhou Li. It was obvious who he was talking about. What nonsense are you spewing? Zhou Li looked at Duan Lingtian. A hint of panic flashed in his eyes, and he was enraged. How dare you say you're trying to be reasonable when you're trying to cheat our Zhou clan's auction fair? Zhou Li looked at the silver-robed old man again as he said, Manager, you should get ready for the auction. Let me handle this small matter, I'll get rid of them right away, Zhou Li said as he looked at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu. It was as though he was looking at two dead people. There's no rush. I want to know what happened exactly, the silver-robed old man said as he looked at Zhou Li. Zhou Li heard his words and looked at a lady standing in the distance. It was the lady who brought Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu in. You, come over here, tell the manager what happened. The lady's expression changed slightly when she heard Zhou Li's words. However, she quickly unclenched her teeth and walked toward him. The silver-robed old man frowned. He did not understand what was happening. Manager, she's the one who brought them in, it's better if I let her tell you about the details of what happened, Zhou Li explained. The silver-robed old man nodded and looked at the lady before him. Tell me. Yes, manager. It was obvious that the lady felt a little uneasy facing the old man. She said slowly, Manager, these two guests said they have two items that they would like to auction off earlier. I told them unless they have something that's worthy of being in the finale, we don't allow anyone to enter our Zhou clan's auction fairs backstage. The lady looked at the man and woman who were coldly staring at her when she spoke. There was a sense of guilt and helplessness in the depth of her eyes. At that same time, the lady spoke to Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu via voice transmission, I'm sorry, sir and madam, there's nothing else I can do. Vice Manager Zhou Lu said if I don't do as I'm told, not only will he kill me, but he'll kill my family as well. Feng Tianwu's face turned somber. The killing intent in her eyes intensified when she looked at Zhou Li again. Although Duan Lingtian remained calm outwardly, a hint of coldness flashed in the depth of his eyes. Not only did Zhou Li rob him of his things, but he even threatened a weak lady using such a dirty tactic. He had already sentenced Zhou Li to death in his heart. He would not be able to let this go if Zhou Li did not die. These two guests said the items they want to put up for auction are treasures that are worthy of being in the finale, so I brought them to the auction area and got Vice Manager Zhou Li to verify it, the lady continued to speak. When Vice Manager Zhou Li met them and asked them to bring out the items they want to put up for auction, they hesitated and didn't bring out anything in the end. Vice Manager Zhou Li was furious because of that. He condemned them and said they're trying to cheat our Zhou clan's auction fair and asked them to leave. Who knew they would turn around and accuse Vice Manager Zhou Li of taking their things and chased after him backstage. Chapter 1168 Chapter 1169, Cripple. The moment the words left the lady's mouth, chaos erupted in the backstage of the Zhou clan's auction fair. Trying to cheat our Zhou clan's auction fair means that you're trying to cheat our Zhou clan. Vice Manager Zhou Li was being humane when he told you guys to scram. Yet, you still dare to accuse him of taking your things. You deserve to die. This is my first time seeing such shameless people in my entire life. The group of Zhou clan people was filled with righteous indignation. Their words were impolite and blunt as they glared furiously at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu. After the silver-robed old man, the manager of the Zhou clan's auction fair, heard the lady's words, his face turned glum. He looked at Duan Lingtian before he asked in a deep voice, is there anything else you want to say? Duan Lingtian glanced nonchalantly at that silver-robed old man and asked, there's no need for you to care whether I have anything else to say or not, right now, will you believe me even I say anything? From the very beginning until the end, his face remained calm as though he did not notice the imminent danger. Or perhaps, he did not classify this as a danger at all. Manager, why are you still talking nonsense with him? Get rid of them, it's time for us to prepare for our auction fair, Zhou Li chimed in. Am I right? Zhou Li turned to look at the other people present in the backstage of the auction fair. That's right, kill them, they defamed Vice Manager Zhou Li and looked down on our Zhou clan. They deserve to die. Indeed, they deserve to die, Zhou Li's words were like the blasting fuse that fully ignited the atmosphere of the auction fair's backstage. Each and every one of the Zhou clan's member was itching to flay Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu alive. It was only when the silver-robed old man raised his hand that the auction fair's backstage fell silent again. I'd really like to hear your explanation regarding this, the old man said at a speed that was neither too fast nor too slow as he looked at Duan Lingtian. Manager, there's no need to waste your time on these liars. The moment Zhou Li heard the old man's words, his eyes turned sharp as he chimed in my opinion, we should just kill him. Then, he strode out and stood beside the old man. He was about to attack Duan Lingtian, but the old man raised a hand to block him. What, Vice Manager Zhou Li, are you afraid that you'll be found out, huh? Duan Lingtian flashed a smile at Zhou Li that caused him to panic. His face turned grave, but he snorted loudly. What's there for me to be afraid of? Don't tell me that I, Zhou Li, really took your things. Well, you don't have the final say on whether you took my things or not. Duan Lingtian's smile remained on his face. Of course I know I don't have the final say. Didn't you hear what the people said? You're all liars. You just want to create a disturbance at our Zhou clan's auction fair. Zhou Li snorted. Oh, really? Duan Lingtian took a good look at Zhou Li before raising his hand. A sword and a pill appeared in his hands. Didn't you ask me if I have the same spirit weapon and pill with me? I'm sorry, I forgot that I do indeed have them in my spatial ring. The moment Zhou Li saw Duan Lingtian taking out the spirit sword and pill, his face turned pale immediately. His eyes narrowed when he heard Duan Lingtian's words. You're the manager of this Zhou clan's auction square, right? Duan Lingtian looked at the silver-robed old man before he casually passed the sword and pill in his hand to him. Earlier, this subordinate of yours, Zhou Li, pocketed my grade 1 spirit sword and life recovery pill. How ridiculous. Before the old man could say anything, Zhou Li snorted. Do you think our Zhou clan are lacking in grade 1 spirit swords and life recovery pills? Why would I need yours? Well, I don't know if Zhou clan is lacking in that or not, however, I can see that you're definitely lacking, Duan Lingtian replied nonchalantly. You're looking for death. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, Zhou Li could no longer hold it back anymore. He was infuriated. Zhou Li seized the opportunity when the old man reached out to take the grade 1 spirit sword and life recovery pill that Duan Lingtian passed to him. His origin energy skyrocketed from his body. Profundities followed closely like shadows as his entire being transformed into a cannonball that shot toward Duan Lingtian. Zhou Li, the silver-robed old man who had just taken the spirit sword and pill, did not expect Zhou Li to attack Duan Lingtian after he had dissuaded him. For a moment, his face turned grave since he felt as though his prestige had been challenged. However, even if he wanted to save the purple-clad young man, it was already too late now. Zhou Li's attack was just too sudden. It was so sudden that he still did not regain his senses. Boom! Soon after, a loud explosion resonated. Everyone from the Zhou clan thought the purple-clad young man had already been killed by Zhou Li. However, along with the series of explosions, a flurry of hurricanes swept through. They were shocked by the scene before their eyes. Dear Lord, what did they just witness? The purple-clad young man stood there unharmed while Zhou Li was curled up on the ground. He was rolling frantically on the floor as cold sweat broke out on his forehead. Zhou Li was holding his lower abdomen in pain while he rolled in a frenzy on the floor. At the same time, he pointed a trembling finger at Duan Lingtian as he screamed, "Why, you crippled my Dantian? How ruthless of you! You're so ruthless!" Silence. The entire scene fell silent. The Zhou clan's members were very clear about Zhou Li's background. Zhou Li was an elder of their Zhou clan. He was only in his 50s and yet, he was already at the 4th level martial monarch stage. His strength was extremely astounding. However, today, his Dantian was crippled in one blow by a young man who looked as though he was only 25 years old. Sir, isn't this a little too much? The silver-robed old man, who was the manager of the Zhou clan's auction fair, glared coldly at Duan Lingtian. Too much. Duan Lingtian smiled. He robbed me of my grade 1 spirit weapon and pill, but he still wanted to kill me. I've only crippled his cultivation base, and you think that it's too much? We still haven't reached a conclusion yet regarding this matter. The silver-robed old man looked at Duan Lingtian with dread on his face as he said in a deep voice, "I've worked with this Zhou Li for many years now, so I know him pretty well. Just a mere grade 1 spirit weapon and life recovery pill are not enough to rouse his greed." That's right, I think so too, Many Zhou clan's members nodded their heads in agreement. Each and every one of them was glaring at Duan Lingtian, but none of them dared to make a move. Like the silver-robed old man, they were surprised by Duan Lingtian's strength. He crippled Zhou Li's Dantian with just a blow. Even this silver-robed old man, the manager of the Zhou clan's auction fair, feared Duan Lingtian's strength now. Zhou Li, who was in so much pain that he almost felt numb, finally stopped rolling on the floor. He looked at the silver-robed man. He was covered in cold sweat as he urged in bleak voice, "Manager Zhouji, kill him and avenge me. Avenge me." The silver-robed old man, the manager of the Zhou clan's auction fair, was named Zhouji. In the face of Zhouji's query, Duan Lingtian's expression remained unchanged. He said calmly, "If it's just an ordinary grade 1 spirit weapon and life recovery pill, it would not have roused his greed. However, do you really think that my grade 1 spirit weapon and life recovery pill that are qualified to be the finale items in your auction fair are only ordinary items?" The moment Zhou Li heard Duan Lingtian's words, terror could be seen in his eyes. However, all Zhou clan's members, including Zhouji, shifted their eyes to the grade 1 spirit sword and life recovery pill in Zhouji's hands. Aren't they just a grade 1 spirit weapon and a grade 1 life recovery pill? What difference could it have? Many people were skeptical. Swish! Zhouji raised his hand. A gust of pure origin energy gushed out of his hand and entered the grade 1 spirit sword he was holding. For a moment, the sound of sword whistling resonated in the air. It was crisp and pleasant to the ears. Just from the sound, they could tell it was a good sword. Swish! Soon after, a silhouette of an ancient black dragon appeared above Zhouji's head, displaying his cultivation base at the 7th level martial monarch stage. In the next instant, the heaven and earth phenomenon appeared next to the ancient black dragon's silhouette. A total of 9,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared before everyone's eyes. When most of the people were carefully studying the ancient horned dragons and trying to count them, Zhouji regained his senses and cried out, "A 90% boost! A 90% boost!" The crowd burst into an uproar. They had never seen nor heard about any grade 1 spirit weapon that could give a 90% boost before. However, one had appeared right before their eyes today. Many people gulped and asked with slight difficulty, "Sir Manager, this grade 1 spirit sword really gives a 90% boost? What, are you doubting my words now?" Zhouji glared at these people who were speechless before he turned to look at Duan Lingtian with a shocked expression. Slightly awestruck, he asked, "May I ask you, sir, who's the maker of this grade 1 spirit sword? This is casually made by one of the grade 1 weapons craftsmen in my sect. What do you think? Can it be the final item in the auction fair held by your Zhou clan today?" Duan Lingtian answered indifferently and bluntly. "Of course." Zhouji immediately nodded his head before shifting his gaze toward the grade 1 life recovery pill in his hand again. "Zhouan, you're a grade 2 alchemist. Take a look at this grade 1 life recovery pill." When the crowd was still taken aback by the boost of the grade 1 spirit sword in Zhouji's hand, Zhouji looked at an old man with white hair and casually threw the grade 1 life recovery pill in his hand to him. The old man, whose name was Zhouan, began to examine the life recovery pill. After just a glance, his body began to tremble violently. What's wrong with Elder Zhouan? Could it be the grade 1 life recovery pill is special or something? It must be so, with the grade 1 spirit sword serving as an example, the Zhou clan's members present did not dare to look down on the purple-clad young man's grade 1 life recovery pill. After a moment, Zhouan finally returned to his senses. His body trembled uncontrollably, and he yelled excitedly, 9-91% purity. This is grade 1 life recovery pill has a purity of 91%. The moment the words left Zhouan's mouth, the entire scene fell silent again. A grade 1 life recovery pill with 91% purity. Oh, God! How terrifying the medicinal efficacy must be. Chapter 1169 Chapter 1170, the VIP area. When the Zhou clan's members at the backstage of the auction fair were still shocked by the grade 1 life recovery pill with 91% purity, a nonchalant voice resonated in the air and attracted everybody's attention. Trying to escape. Duan Lingtian raised his hand, and an invisible force grabbed Zhou Li, who was trying to escape from the auction fair's backstage. His hand in the air seemed as though it was gripping a throat. As for Zhou Li, his throat was gripped by an invisible force that seemed to have transformed into an invisible hand. His face was flushed as he was lifted into midair. His eyes were bulging, and he could not make a sound at all. "Sir, please have mercy," Zhouji hastily pleaded as he looked at Duan Lingtian. "Have mercy." Duan Lingtian cast a glance at Zhouji nonchalantly and asked in reply, "Do you think that's possible?" "Sir, Zhou Li is the only son of a Zhou clan's grand elder. If you kill him, you'll only be inviting harm to yourself." Zhouji knew that a soft method would not work on him, so he switched to a harsher method instead. It was as though he was afraid Duan Lingtian did not know how powerful their Zhou clan's Grand Elder was. He continued to say, our Zhou clan's Grand Elder is one of the best in our Zhou clan. He's at the 8th level martial monarch stage. Although I'm a 7th level martial monarch stage martial artist, I'd most likely die in just a blow if I fight with our Zhou clan's Grand Elder. Zhou Ji continued to play up their Zhou clan's Grand Elder's power. Zhou clan's Grand Elder, 8th level martial monarch stage. However, Duan Lingtian did not take Zhou Ji's bait at all. He looked at Zhou Ji indifferently before his hand that looked as though it was gripping a neck suddenly tightened. Crack, a crisp sound of bone breaking resonated in the air. Although the sound was not particularly loud, it had taken everyone, except for Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu, by surprise. It made their hearts leap. Everyone from the Zhou clan, including Zhou Ji, turned pale immediately. Bam! Zhou Ji, whose neck was broken by Duan Lingtian, fell to the floor. The profundity fragment in his body and his spatial ring were in Duan Lingtian's hand now. Why you, Zhou Ji looked at Duan Lingtian, speechless. He was shocked by Duan Lingtian's action. He actually dared to kill the only son of the Zhou clan's Grand Elder. In his opinion, this young man was doomed. Many other Zhou clan's members shared the same thought with Zhou Ji. However, there was a small group of Zhou clan's members who thought otherwise. Ever since he entered the backstage of our auction square, his face remained calm. There was no trace of panic on his face at all. At first, I thought he was just putting on a show, but I finally understand that he thinks nothing of us at all. There's still no trace of panic on his face even after he killed Zhou Li, the Zhou clan's Grand Elder's only son. It seems like he's not afraid of the Grand Elder at all. He's not afraid of the Grand Elder at all. How strong is he exactly? Earlier, he said the Grade 1 spirit weapon that could grant a 90% boost is made by a Grade 1 weapons craftsman from his sect. A sect that has such an extraordinary Grade 1 weapons craftsman must not be an ordinary sect. Perhaps he's a disciple of a first-rate sect in the center area of the Inner Land. A small group of Zhou clan's members whispered among themselves. The Inner Land could be considered as the center of Cloud Continent. There were many powerhouses who were gathered there. The center area of the Inner Land, on the other hand, was the core center of Cloud Continent. There were more powerhouses there who were even more powerful. The moment they heard the whispering of the small group of Zhou clan's members, most of the other Zhou clan's members, including Zhou Ji, felt that they had a point. Their faces immediately turned grave in unison. Indeed, a Grade 1 weapons craftsman who could make a Grade 1 spirit weapon that could grant a 90% boost would not have joined an ordinary sect. Although their Zhou clan was a first-rate force as well, it was ranked in the last few places among the first-rate forces in the Inner Land. It was a first-rate force that was ranked at the bottom on Cloud Continent. The closer it was to the center area of the Inner Land, the stronger the first-rate force was. Zhou Ji took a deep breath and looked at Duan Lingtian before he asked, "May I know which sect you are from, sir?" "You'll find out which sect I'm from in no time. In case the Zhou clan claims that I framed him, please take my things out from Zhou Li's spatial ring." Duan Lingtian replied nonchalantly to Zhou Ji's query. He raised his hand and threw Zhou Li's spatial ring to Zhou Ji. Zhou Ji cast a complicated glance at Duan Lingtian before performing a blood ownership claim on Zhou Li's spatial ring. Soon after, he took out a spirit sword and a pill. Although they were already mentally prepared, they still burst into an uproar the moment they saw Zhou Ji took out the stolen goods from Zhou Li's spatial ring. Each of them looked at Zhou Li's body in contempt. What a disgrace to our Zhou clan. Moreover, he was the son of our Grand Elder. He really brought shame to our Zhou clan. Although Zhou Li had turned into a corpse, there were still many people who sneered at him. "Put the sword and pill back before you remove the blood ownership claim on the spatial ring and give it back to me. As for the previous sword and pill, if your Zhou clan's auction fair is willing to auction it for me, I'll hand them to you. If you're unwilling, I'll take them with me and leave," Duan Lingtian said nonchalantly as he looked at Zhou Ji. "Of course we're willing," Zhou Ji replied without any hesitation. "Moreover, the Zhou clan's auction square will help you auction these two items for free, sir." While Zhou Ji spoke, he put the sword and pill back into the spatial ring that Zhou Li left behind before he removed the blood ownership claim on the spatial ring and returned it to Duan Lingtian. "In that case, thank you, Manager Zhou Ji," Duan Lingtian replied after he took a good look at Zhou Ji. "You're welcome." In the face of the young man who seemed to not fear their Zhou clan's Grand Elder, Joji did not dare to be negligent in fear of offending someone he was not supposed to offend since he did not know the young man's background. Soon after, Joji looked at the lady standing by the side who was shaking in fear and asked Duan Lingtian, "Then, how do you want to deal with her, sir?" Smack. When Joji's words left his mouth, the lady kneeled down in front of Duan Lingtian and smacked her head on the ground loudly as she bowed. "See customer, I know that I'm wrong. It's ALR right if you want to take my life. However, after I die, I hope you'll have mercy and let go my family go." The lady knocked her head on the ground. She begged for mercy, not for her life, but for her family's lives. She was afraid Duan Lingtian would vent his anger on her family. "Seeing as you tried explaining to me via voice transmission earlier, I won't make a fuss about this," Duan Lingtian said indifferently. "Thank you, customer. Thank you, customer." The lady quickly thanked Duan Lingtian. "The customer is not making a fuss, but you still don't want to get up. The auction fair is about to begin. Why are you still not bringing him to the VIP area? You better serve the customer properly. Otherwise, you don't have to come here anymore." Joji frowned when he saw the lady was still kneeling on the ground. Yes. Upon hearing this, the lady returned to her senses. She hastily stood up before looking at Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu. "Please follow me." She proceeded to lead Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu, who was following her from behind. After Duan Lingtian left, the backstage of the Zhou clan's auction square fell silent again. "You, send Zhou Li's body back to the clan. Apart from that, tell the clan leader about everything that has transpired here today. Before he finds out the young man's identity, it's better not to alert the Grand Elder who's still in closed-door cultivation. Moreover, don't take the initiative to attack at all." Joji looked at one of the Zhou clan's disciples. When he reached the end of his order, he remarked with a cautious expression, "I have a feeling he's not that simple." The moment the Zhou clan's disciple heard his order, he responded respectfully, "Yes." He lifted Zhou Li's body before he left. "Okay, everybody, get ready, the auction fair is about to begin," Joji told the others. "Yes," the crowd of people replied one after another. At another side, under the lady's guidance, Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu finally arrived at an area that was closest to the auction stage. There were rows and rows of standalone pergolas as well. Some pergolas only housed one person while some housed a group of 3 to 5 people who were animatedly chatting with each other. It was apparent they came here in a group. "Oh, there are people who wear masks here too." Soon after, Duan Lingtian noticed there were many people in the VIP area who were wearing masks. It seemed as though they were afraid other people would recognize them. Duan Lingtian could faintly guess their intentions. It was precisely because they were worried they would attract attention when they placed their bid during the auction. With the masks, nobody would know who was bidding for the items. After that, they could just take off their masks and walk away as though nothing had happened. "Customer, this way please." The lady led Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu to an empty pergola. There were a stone table and stone stools in the pergola. Apart from that, there were also good wine, dainty dishes, and fresh fruits placed on the stone table. After Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu sat down, the lady kept watch in the front of the pergola after telling the two of them, "Customers, just call me if you need anything." After she finished saying this, she continued to keep watch in front of the pergola. There were many pergolas in the VIP area. However, the only pergola that had somebody from the Zhou clan's auction square keeping watch was none other than the one that housed Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu. The pergola instantly stood out like a stork in a flock of fowls. It attracted many people's attention. Who is so arrogant? They actually have a specially assigned servant to serve them. Many people were curious. A young man who was dressed luxuriously sat in a pergola near Duan Lingtian's pergola. An old man stood behind that young man like a shadow. "I'd love to see who's this person that the Zhou clan treats so well. Even I don't have anyone serving me." The luxuriously dressed young man heard the commotion in the surroundings and saw a lady standing outside a pergola. His face instantly turned grave. In the next second, he stood up and brought the old man over to that pergola. "Dear customers, there's someone here." When the luxuriously dressed young man brought the old man over and was about to enter Duan Lingtian's pergola, the lady who was standing outside quickly stopped them and smiled. "Please find another place to sit, dear customers." Scram. When the luxuriously dressed young man saw the lady blocking his way, the young man who was originally unhappy became angry. He raised his hand and thrust a palm out as fast as lightning. Boom! A loud explosion reverberated in the air. The lady was instantly killed by him. Blood splattered inside the pergola. Chapter 1170 Chapter 1171, Slaying with Just One Finger. A loud sound reverberated in the air when the woman was killed, instantly taking Duan Lingtian by surprise. Nobody saw when Duan Lingtian made a move, but a layer of invisible light shield rose and blocked the blood that splattered toward him and Tianwu. In the next instant, Duan Lingtian looked at the assailant who was slowly walking into the pergola. His face turned grave immediately. What a beautiful woman! When the luxuriously dressed young man brought the old man in, his gaze instantly landed on Feng Tianwu. He completely ignored Duan Lingtian. His breathing quickened when he saw Feng Tianwu's extremely beautiful face. When had he ever seen such a beauty? Lady, I'm called Wu Jia. I'm the son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect. I wonder what's your name, miss? The luxuriously dressed young man arrived before Feng Tianwu. A warm smile appeared on that fairly handsome face. However, there were lust and desire in the depth of his eyes. The desire to obtain this almost perfect woman before him. At the moment when Wu Jia greeted Feng Tianwu in a refined and courteous manner, Feng Tianwu replied with a cold and icy word, "Scram." Wu Jia was struck dumb for a moment. From the moment Wu Jia killed the woman standing outside the pergola, the commotion had caught many people's attention. Due to this reason, Wu Jia's failure in chatting up Feng Tianwu and her rebuke to him was seen by everyone. The son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect. When most of them discovered Wu Jia's identity, they did not dare to say anything at all. However, their eyes were filled with scorn when they looked at him. The True Martial Sect was also a first-rate force similar to the Zhou clan in Ataraxia City and the former Yin-Yang sect. Wu Jia felt extremely embarrassed when he noticed the scorn from the people in the surroundings. He tried to suppress the wrath rising in his heart. He looked at Feng Tianwu again before he repeated, I said I'm the son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect. The young sect leader of True Martial Sect. However, the reply that Feng Tianwu gave him was also the same word she had given him earlier. Scram. Scram. Wu Jia's body trembled slightly, and his expression began to turn wretched. When had he ever been ignored like that in front of a crowd? There was no difference to being humiliated. The group of people watching the scene burst into an uproar. While they sneered at Wu Jia, they were looking at Feng Tianwu in shock. They did not expect this woman to have the balls to treat the son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect in such a way. Although the sect leader of True Martial Sect had 2 sons, the one he doted on the most was none other than his youngest son whom he obtained in his old age. He almost regarded him as his life. Bitch, I was nice to you. How dare you act so ungrateful? Finally, Wu Jia could no longer suppress the flames of fury in his heart and completely erupted. He took a stride forward and raised both hands to grab Feng Tianwu. Aren't you arrogant? From today onward, I'll make you my slave. Wu Jia was the son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect. He had just entered his 30s, and his cultivation base was at the peak of the void. However, he was like an ant in front of Feng Tianwu. Whoosh! Young master! The sound of sword whistling in the air disappeared as soon as it appeared. It was accompanied by a loud scream. As it turned out, Feng Tianwu had casually drawn her sword and took the life of Wu Jia, who was venting his anger on her. The owner of the loud scream was none other than the old man standing behind Wu Jia. He did not expect the harmless-looking red-clad woman could kill young master without him noticing. His young master was dead. How was he going to explain this to the sect leader? Silence descended on the surroundings. The gazes that landed on Wu Jia, who was lying in a pool of blood, were a little stunned. She killed the youngest son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect. She just invited a huge calamity. The True Martial Sect will never let her go. I can't believe she possessed the strength to kill the youngest son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect, even though she only appears to be in her 20s, although there was no heaven and earth energy that gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon when they attacked earlier. I heard the youngest son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect was at the peak of the void already. He was killed in just a blow. She must be a martial monarch then. The onlookers discussed among themselves as they stared at this woman who possessed unrivaled beauty in astonishment. Well, it was just like the saying, women are troubles. If it was not for the fact that the son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect harbored evil intention toward this woman, he would not have ended up like that. However, what they did not know was the son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect had been sentenced to death by the purple-clad young man standing next to the woman when he killed the woman standing outside the pergola. Why you? How dare you kill my young master? Do you know who he is? The old man was so infuriated that his body began to tremble when he saw Wu Jia lying on the ground. He glared at Feng Tianwu intently. It seemed as though he had not recovered from his shock yet. What does it have to do with me, whoever he is? Feng Tianwu lifted her head and looked at the old man indifferently. Her question almost made the old man throw up blood. This woman first killed his young master, and then, she actually had the audacity to ask what did it have to do with her, who his young master was. You're looking for death. The old man could no longer hold back. With a loud roar, origin energy rose from his body and transformed into a thunderstorm in just a blink of an eye before it twined around his body. It made him look like a thunder god. Apart from that, there were also revolving wind energy and dancing flames around the thunderstorm. With a flash, the old man charged out. A series of explosions sounded in his wake as he charged out. Invisible airwave rolled out and turned into a flurry of hurricanes that swept through the place. Swish! In the next instant, a sword suddenly appeared in the old man's hands. The sword sliced toward Feng Tianwu powerfully as though it had divine help. The strength that the old man demonstrated was not only more powerful than Wu Jia, it far surpassed Feng Tianwu too. However, Feng Tianwu's expression remained calm in the face of the old man's hurricane-like attack. It seemed as though she had no intention of moving at all. Has she gone crazy? It looks like she's wishing for death now. Many people thought to themselves as they watched the scene unfolding before their eyes. Just when everybody thought Feng Tianwu was about to die, a scene far beyond their imagination suddenly unfolded. Their eyes instantly became as wide as saucers. Dear Lord, what did they just witness? The purple-clad young man who was sitting motionlessly next to the red-clad woman suddenly made his move like a thunder when the old man's sword that contained the strength of 2 ancient black dragons and several thousand ancient horned dragons was slicing down at the red-clad woman. Swoosh! With just one finger, he blocked the sword that the old man wielded with all his might. The finger and the sword met. They were momentarily locked in a stalemate. Rolling airwaves began to spread out from the meeting point of the finger and the sword before it transformed into a flurry of hurricanes that made the onlookers' robes flutter. Some people with a lower cultivation base had to squint their eyes. However, their eyes did not leave the purple-clad young man standing nearby. His strength shocked all of them. Crack, 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 comma. Right at this moment, the old man's face flushed as his body trembled ever so slightly. A series of fine cracks began to appear from the place where he stood. The cracks continued to spread out, appearing like a giant spider web. Humph! In comparison to the old man's lack of energy to carry on, Duan Lingtian appeared calm and collected. However, he soon snorted as the finger blocking at the tip of the old man's sword gave a little flick. A vast energy surged out of Duan Lingtian's finger and entered the spirit sword in the old man's hand easily like crushing dried leaves before it entered old man's body as well. Boom! In just a blink of an eye, the tyrannical energy destroyed the old man's internal organs, killing him imperceptibly. The old man collapsed to the ground, his eyes turned lifeless when he stopped breathing. Silence. The entire scene fell silent. True martial sect. Duan Lingtian swept a cold glance at the two bodies. A hint of disdain could be seen on the corner of his mouth. According to Luo Ping, the true martial sect was originally one of Yin-Yang sect's mortal enemies. Tian Wu, let's go there. Duan Lingtian took the spatial rings, profundity, and concept fragments from the two bodies before he led Feng Tianwu to an unoccupied pergola to sit. Meanwhile, everyone's eyes followed them when they moved. Who is this purple-clad young man? He's really strong. Judging by the heaven and earth phenomenon he mobilized, that old man from the true martial sect should be at the 5th or 6th level martial monarch stage at least. However, he was killed with just a finger. He's just too powerful. I guess he must be a powerful demon. It's quite unlikely for a human martial artist to be so powerful at such a young age. A group of people whispered among themselves. The eyes that were looking at Duan Lingtian were filled with dread. Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu sat down in another pergola. Soon after, the Zhou clan's auction square's staff came to clean the previous pergola they were sitting in. While they were cleaning, it was apparent that they were slightly trembling. After all, the body they were cleaning up belonged to the dearest youngest son of the sect leader of true martial sect. At the backstage of the Zhou clan's auction square. Manager, the two of them are real troublemakers. Before this, they've already killed Zhou Li, and now they even killed the dearest youngest son of the sect leader of true martial sect and the elder of true martial sect. One of the Zhou clan's disciples reported as he looked at Zhou Ji. There was a wry smile on his face. Looks like our Zhou clan's auction square is destined to be stormy today, Zhou Ji sighed. Soon after, somebody entered and reported, "Manager, I've done as you said. I've already asked someone to send the 2 bodies to the True Martial Sect's industrial property in Ataraxia City." "Manager, it's going to begin soon," someone reminded at this moment. "Follow the orders. It must be chaotic outside right now. Let me go out and calm them down," Zhou Ji ordered before he walked out of the backstage to the auction stage. Standing on the auction stage, he could clearly see the pergolas in front of his eyes and the customers sitting inside them. These customers were all here to participate in the large-scale auction fair at the Zhou clan's auction square today. "Everyone, I'd like to announce that the large-scale auction fair that's held every 3 months by the Zhou clan's auction square has now begun," Zhou Ji announced in a lively manner. Chapter 1171 Chapter 1172, A Stormy Ataraxia City. As Zhou Ji announced the start of the auction fair, the attention of all the customers in Zhou clan's auction square had also shifted from Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu to the auction stage. Soon after, someone brought out the first auction item that attracted everyone's attention, including Duan Lingtian. However, Duan Lingtian's interest vanished after just a glance at the item. The first auction item was a bottle of grade 1 pill. Although the pill was contained in a pill bottle, Duan Lingtian's spiritual energy easily detected the pill's attributes. It was a grade 1 pill with less than 70% purity. In Duan Lingtian's eyes, this was basically trash. However, what Duan Lingtian perceived as trash might not be perceived as trash by the others. Moreover, in the eyes of the people, it was a treasure they could only obtain by spending a lot of high-grade origin stones. "I'll offer 20 high-grade origin stones. 30. 50, that bottle of grade 1 pill that Duan Lingtian regarded as trash was successfully sold to someone at the cost of 120 high-grade origin stones. It caused Duan Lingtian to sigh a little. Let alone 120 high-grade origin stones, he was not even willing to spend 1 high-grade origin stone on a trash like that. Pills were different from spirit weapons. A low-grade spirit weapon could still be refined in the furnace, but it was not the case for pills. The auction fair continued to go on like a raging fire. However, it was not tranquil at all in the Zhou clan's mansion in Ataraxia City. The entire Zhou clan was in an uproar from the body that was sent into the Zhou clan's mansion. All of the senior officials of Zhou clan, who were at home at the moment and not in closed-door cultivation, had gathered together. An old man wearing a green robe inlaid with gold sat on the highest seat in the Zhou clan's main hall. The old man appeared to be in good shape, and the prestige that came from the calmness in his eyes subtly revealed an aura of supremacy. This old man was none other than the current clan leader of Ataraxia City's Zhou clan, Zhou Zheng. The people sitting below were a group of people who had gathered there. Among them were old and middle-aged men. All of them were the Zhou clan's elders. At this moment, they were gathered around a body lying on the ground. They were no stranger to the body at all. Zhou Li was a Zhou clan's elder and also the son of the Zhou clan's grand elder. One of the middle-aged elders of the Zhou clan looked at Zhou Zheng sitting on the highest seat with a pair of huge eyes as he asked in disbelief, "Clan leader, who did this?" It was very hard for him to imagine someone who had the balls to do something like that. How dare he kill the only son of their Zhou clan's grand elder? For a moment, all of the Zhou clan's elders looked at Zhou Zheng. They were curious about this as well. Their Zhou clan's grand elder was a powerhouse who was well known in Ataraxia City and its surrounding region. In their opinion, being so bold as to slaughter the only son of their Zhou clan's grand elder was just bringing about one's own destruction. Under the curious eyes of the Zhou clan's elders, Zhou Zheng shook his head instead. "I have no idea yet." "No idea?" Zhou Zheng's words left the Zhou clan's elders completely bewildered. "Clan leader, what do you mean by this? See, could it be that we don't even know who killed Zhou Li?" One of the Zhou clan's elders asked with a frown. "In that case, doesn't this mean Grand Elder won't be able to find the killer if he wants to avenge Zhou Li? If the Grand Elder comes out of his closed-door cultivation, he definitely won't be able to accept this." Before Zhou Zheng could reply, the rest of the Zhou clan's elders already fell into a discussion among themselves. "The killer's still in our Zhou clan's auction square." With this one remark from Zhou Zheng, the entire scene fell silent. In the next second, a Zhou clan's elder regained his senses first. His eyes gleamed coldly. "Clan leader, the Grand Elder has sacrificed his entire life for the sake of our Zhou clan. Right now, his only son was killed while he's in the midst of closed-door cultivation to make a breakthrough. We should capture the killer now and deal with him later when the Grand Elder finally comes out. This suggestion from the Zhou clan's elder was supported by the other Zhou clan's elders. If this issue is as simple as that, do you think I'll still ask all of you to come? Zhou Zheng asked as he swept an indifferent glance at the Zhou clan's elders. For a moment, the Zhou clan elders were rendered speechless. Clan leader, don't tell me there's a problem, an astute Zhou clan's elder asked. That's right, Zhou Zheng nodded before he continued to say, Zhou Li is killed at the backstage of our Zhou clan's auction square. When he died, Zhou Ji was present at the scene too. Zhou Ji, the manager of the Zhou clan's auction square. He was also a Zhou clan's elder that possessed great strength. This was a matter of course. If his strength was not powerful, how could he possibly assume the post of manager at the Zhou clan's auction square that was greatly important to the Zhou clan? Elder Zhou Ji was at the scene too. Yet, the killer was still able to kill Zhou Li. Many Zhou clan's elders gasped. Their eyes narrowed instantly. Zhou Ji was a 7th-level martial monarch. His strength was among the top 10 in Zhou clan. According to Zhou Ji's words, he could not even react in time when that guy made his move. His strength is in no way inferior to Zhou Ji. In fact, it must be a lot stronger too, Zhou Zheng replied in a deep voice. Our Zhou clan, including the clan leader and the Grand Elder, still has another 3 supreme elders who are stronger than Elder Zhou Ji. Won't it be easy for us to fight him? Many Zhou clan elders asked confidently. Of course, I know this, Zhou Zheng replied. However, the identity of the person who killed Zhou Li is not simple as well. Oh, the moment Zhou Zheng's words left his mouth, it undoubtedly caught the Zhou clan's elders' attention. His identity is not simple. According to the clan's disciple who sent Zhou Li's body back, the person who killed Zhou Li is a customer who has entrusted items to be auctioned off in our Zhou clan's auction square, Zhou Zheng replied slowly. He stopped when he reached this part of his sentence. Customer. Since he's a customer, why would he kill Zhou Li? Or could it be Zhou Li was the one who provoked him first? The group of Zhou clan elders asked curiously. Today, there are 2 customers who came to put items up for auction in our Zhou clan's auction square. In the face of the Zhou clan elders' doubts, Zhou Zheng told them the ins and outs of the story, including the fact that the customer who had killed Zhou Li actually entrusted a grade 1 spirit weapon that gave a 90% boost in strength and grade 1 pill that had more than 90% purity. Naturally, he did not leave out the story of how Zhou Li, consumed by greed, decided to pocket the items that the customer entrusted to be auctioned off for himself. The moment Zhou Zheng finished his story, a commotion broke out in the Zhou clan's main hall. Many of the Zhou clan elders' faces turned grave instantly. Some even became flushed as though they were embarrassed. What a shame! What a shame! Not only was Zhou Li utterly shameless, he even brought disgrace to our Zhou clan. If that customer spreads this story, who would dare to put their items up for auction at our Zhou clan's auction square? Although I respect the Grand Elder a lot, I must say that Zhou Li's death is not enough to atone for his crime. That's right, even his death could not atone for his crime. After the Zhou clan elders learned about the ins and outs of the matter, many of them cast the blame on the dead Zhou Li and were filled with righteous indignation. Silence. Zhou Zheng's cold voice returned the tranquility to the Zhou clan's main hall again. Although Zhou Li was the one at fault, he had already paid for it with his life. Due to this reason, I hope that nobody will blame him anymore, Zhou Zheng said as he cast a glance at his surroundings. For a moment, the group of Zhou clan's elders fell silent. Clan leader, earlier you said that this customer has entrusted us with a grade 1 spirit weapon that could give a 90% boost in strength. Is it refined by a grade 1 weapon craftsman from his sect? One of the Zhou clan's elder asked as he looked at Zhou Zheng. That's right, Zhou Zheng nodded. The clan's disciple that Zhou Ji sent back said so. On top of that, Zhou Ji suspects the grade 1 life recovery pill that has more than 91% purity also came from a grade 1 alchemist in his sect. The moment these words left Zhou Zheng's mouth, it was like a stone had set off 1,000 ripples. It caused the expressions of the Zhou clan's elders to change drastically. If that's true, then, doesn't this mean there are one extraordinary weapon craftsman and alchemist in the sect that he belongs to? Goodness, how powerful is this sect? Many Zhou clan's elders exclaimed. Due to this reason, before we discover his identity, the Zhou clan cannot offend him. Even if the Grand Elder comes out of his closed-door cultivation, we must not let him look for trouble with that guy at all. Dread could be seen on Zheng Zhou's face when he reached the end of his sentence. The group of Zhou clan's elders agreed with him wholeheartedly. Clan leader, At this moment, a hurried voice rang from outside, gasping heavily for breath. It was obvious this man had rushed his way back to the Zhou clan. Huh, Zhou Zheng raised his brows and responded, "Come in." In the next moment, a Zhou clan's disciple hurried into the hall. When he saw the group of Zhou clan's elders present on the scene, it was inevitable that his expression became a little uncomfortable. Zhou Zheng recognized this person as the clan's disciple who was in charge at the Zhou clan's auction square, so he asked, "Look at you and hurry to find me. Has something happened at the auction square?" Auction square. The moment Zhou Zheng opened his mouth, all of the Zhou clan's elders looked at the newcomer with curiosity in their eyes. They wondered why he rushed back in a hurry to look for the clan leader. Yes, the Zhou clan's disciple who rushed back hastily nodded. "Tell me," Zhou Zheng ordered. Clan leader, the customer and the woman beside him who killed Elder Zhou Li also killed the young sect leader of True Martial Sect and his follower in our Zhou clan's auction square. The Zhou clan disciple finished his sentence in a go. The reason he came back was to report this news. The moment the words left his mouth, the entire scene fell silent. The young sect leader of True Martial Sect. As the clan leader of Zhou clan, Zhou Zheng was one of the top powerhouses in Zhou clan. He regained his senses immediately and asked, "Which young sect leader?" "Is it Wu Jian, the young sect leader who's responsible for the True Martial Sect's industrial property in our Ataraxia city?" Wu Jian was the eldest son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect. He was usually in Ataraxia city handling the True Martial Sect's industrial matter. He was quite powerful and was not inferior to Zhou Ji, the manager of Zhou clan's auction square. No, the Zhou clan's disciple shook his head and smiled wryly. "It's Wu Jia, the youngest son of the sect leader of True Martial Sect. Manager Zhou Ji has already asked someone to send Wu Jia's body to the True Martial Sect's industrial property in Ataraxia city. I think Wu Jian must have seen his brother's body by now," the Zhou clan's disciple added. "Wu Jia," Zhou Zheng's eyes gleamed as he muttered, "looks like it's destined to be stormy in our Ataraxia city today." Chapter 1172 Chapter 1173, Mysterious Silver. Half of the industrial property in Ataraxia city belonged to the Zhou clan. The other half was controlled by a few other first-rate forces, including the True Martial Sect. Today, the True Martial Sect's industrial property in Ataraxia city was not tranquil at all. When the two bodies were sent there, they closed the shops. The atmosphere inside one of the shops was extremely tensed. A sturdy middle-aged man looked at the person who sent the bodies over. His eyes gleamed with iciness as he asked in a deep voice, "Who did this?" That person broke out in cold sweat when the middle-aged man glared at him. He quickly answered, "Young sect leader, I'm from the Zhou clan's auction square. Your brother and this True Martial Sect's elder were killed by two of our customers in our Zhou clan's auction square." Judging from his words, one would be able to figure out that the sturdy middle-aged man was none other than Wu Jian, the other young sect leader of True Martial Sect. He was also Wu Jia's blood brother. "You killed my brother and an elder from the True Martial Sect. I, Wu Jian, will kill you in return." Wu Jian's eyes gleamed murderously, and his body emitted a tyrannical aura that made it seem as though he wanted to devour a certain someone. Wu Jian looked at the young man lying on the ground with red eyes before he enunciated each word slowly in his deep voice, "Brother, rest assured. I'll chop off the head of the person who killed you, and bring it back as an offering to you." At the Zhou clan's auction square, only a short while had passed, but 5 items had already been auctioned off. However, those items were useless to Duan Lingtian. Moreover, 3 out of the 5 items were no different from trash in Duan Lingtian's eyes. The 6th item being auctioned off today in our Zhou clan's auction square is an extremely rare material. According to the record in the ancient book, this is called the mysterious silver. On the auction stage, Zhou Ji introduced the auction item in his hand. It was an irregular round ball that was as big as an adult's fist. It appeared rough and uneven. It was extremely ugly. Mysterious silver. When Zhou Ji's words left his mouth, Duan Lingtian, whose eyes were originally closed, was shocked. He immediately opened his eyes. His burning gaze instantly focused on Zhou Ji's hand. There was finally something he was interested in. Moreover, this thing held quite a significant meaning to him. "What is mysterious silver?" "Exactly. Hurry and introduce it to us. Otherwise, we won't even know what it is if we bid for it and bring it back." Many people asked Zhou Ji to introduce the mysterious silver. Zhou Ji smiled before he continued to say, "The mysterious silver is an extremely valuable inscription material. As for its function, well, one can use the mysterious silver to communicate and give orders to the puppet that's made from a combination of inscription formations and other materials. As you all know, although it's not difficult to create a puppet, these puppets usually do not take orders well. This includes the orders of its maker, the inscription master himself. The puppet is not sentient, it only moves according to the inscription formation the inscription master left behind on its body. Joji continued, however, if you have this mysterious silver, everything will be different. Once the puppet is merged with the mysterious silver, it'll coordinate with a corresponding inscription formation and allow you to give it direct orders and control it. The instant Joji's words left his mouth, the entire scene burst into an uproar. We can control a puppet through this thing. Many people's eyes brightened up instantly. Wait a minute, if the puppet is merged with this mysterious silver, will I be the only one who's able to control it, or can anyone control it as well? If everybody can control it, then it's pretty much useless, someone voiced out the worry in his heart soon after that. That's right, if everybody can control it, isn't that like doing all the work for someone else? Many people voiced out their agreement as well. Soon after, these words spread in the entire Joe clan's auction square and became the general consensus. Even Joji, who was standing on the auction stage, could hear the words. All of you, there's no need for you to worry. The mysterious silver can only be used to control the puppet when it's coordinated with the inscription and inscription formation. Unless the inscription master commands it, only specific people can give orders and control the puppet, Joji explained carefully. The moment everyone heard Joji's words, their eyes brightened instantly. If that's the case, this mysterious silver is indeed great. If it's not expensive, I'll buy it and bring it back for a try. There were many inscription masters among the group of customers in the Joe clan's auction square. All of them were staring at the mysterious silver in Joji's hand with bright eyes. If it was not for the fact that they were not confident they could snatch the mysterious silver away, they would have gone on stage to snatch it away. The mysterious silver could be considered as a treasure to inscription masters. Although the puppet they made was not as powerful as them and not very helpful, their hearts began to long for the mysterious silver the moment they imagined a puppet following them around and carrying out their orders unconditionally with just a command. Similar to them, Duan Ling Tian also longed for the mysterious silver. With this mysterious silver, I'll be able to put the inscription formation that I obtained from Qingfeng Palace previously to use. Duan Ling Tian's thought immediately went to the gigantic wooden puppet he encountered in Qingfeng Palace that was left behind by Martial Emperor Qingfeng in the Martial Emperor's secret treasure. With the stone platform that was inscribed with a bizarre inscription formation at the core, the gigantic wooden puppet could mobilize the shattered woods on the floor and turn them into a powerful force. Initially, Duan Ling Tian had taken the odd stone platform away with him since he really wanted the inscription formation on it. After that, Duan Ling Tian tried to use the inscription formation to gather the origin energies of a group of people and turn it into a powerful force. As the saying went, use a large force to defeat a small one, and defeat the strong by using a weak force. Unfortunately, imagination was always beautiful, and reality was harsh. The impure origin energies from human bodies could not be gathered by the inscription formation. Only pure origin energies inside origin stones could be gathered using this kind of inscription formation. In the past, Duan Ling Tian had also thought about making a huge number of puppets and gather these puppets' strength through that kind of inscription formation so that he could obtain a powerful force. However, a puppet was still a puppet. Even if he was the person who created it, he still could not order or control it. Due to this reason, he had abandoned this idea. Perhaps, that inscription formation will only be useful if I obtain the mysterious silver. This was the idea that Duan Ling Tian had last time. At that time, he had ransacked the rebirth Martial Emperor's memory and discovered that if the mysterious silver was merged with a puppet, just a tiny bit would do, he would be able to use a corresponding inscription formation to order and control the puppet. The corresponding inscription formation was a simple inscription formation. Most of the famous inscription masters on Cloud Continent were able to inscribe and set it up. However, although the inscription formation was easy to set up, the mysterious silver was extremely rare. At the very least, the rebirth Martial Emperor did not encounter any in his 2 lives. I can't believe that I, Duan Ling Tian, actually encountered the thing the rebirth Martial Emperor had never seen before in his 2 reincarnations. It looks like my trip to Ataraxia City this time is not in vain. Duan Ling Tian's eyes shone as he looked at the mysterious silver in Joji's hand. I must obtain this mysterious silver. An ordinary inscription master might want the mysterious silver so that he could bring the puppet out and show off, but Duan Lingtian wanted it because he wanted to build a huge and powerful puppet. Even if an ordinary puppet was set to move by a supreme-grade origin stones that were much superior to high-grade origin stones, the power it could unleash was still limited. It could only be compared to an ordinary void transformation stage martial artist at the most. However, with the inscription formation that Duan Lingtian obtained in the Martial Emperor's secret treasure left behind by Martial Emperor Qingfeng, it would gather the strength of a group of puppets to form a greater strength. Even a puppet with origin energy comparable to a martial monarch could be created using that kind of inscription formation. At that time, the puppet would possess strength that's comparable to a martial monarch after it has corresponded with the profundity fragment that I put in it. It'll be like a man-made martial monarch. The moment Duan Lingtian thought of this, he could not help but feel excited. Although it was difficult for 99% of the inscription masters on Cloud Continent to put a profundity fragment in the puppet so that it would be able to cast the corresponding profundity, it was not a problem at all for Duan Lingtian, who had the rebirth Martial Emperor's memory. Currently, I have many profundity fragments that I've collected, and I can definitely build a puppet with strength comparable to a martial monarch. However, I still need to get my hands on the mysterious silver first before I can do all this. Duan Lingtian's eyes were filled with longing. From the beginning until the end, his eyes did not leave the mysterious silver in Zhou Ji's hand at all. If there was no mysterious silver, it would be absolutely useless even if he built a super powerful puppet. It would not obey his order, and he could not control it. Dear customers, think about it. If you bring a puppet who obeys your orders out, how will other people look at you? They'll be envious, of course. They'll definitely look at you with eyes filled with envy. Holding on to the mysterious silver, Zhou Ji played the item up. He praised it and described it with a colorful description. I must get my hands on this mysterious silver. Humph. Well then, let's see who has more origin stones. I don't lack origin stones at all. Try competing with me if you dare. As proven by facts, Zhou Ji's exaggeration was indeed rather fruitful. After a short period of time, people were already arguing with each other. Although the commotion by his ears proved that the mysterious silver was in high demand, Duan Lingtian was not bothered at all. Put aside the fact that he had managed to obtain a huge number of high-grade origin stones from the pirates led by Gold Thug before he went to the Yin-Yang sect, after he had become the sect leader of Lingtian sect and took over everything in the Yin-Yang sect, the high-grade origin stones in his hands had already accumulated to several 100,000 pieces. Moreover, there were many supreme-grade origin stones as well. The supreme-grade origin stones were produced by the high-grade origin stone vein that used to be controlled by the Yin-Yang sect, currently known as the Lingtian sect. Naturally, the production number was not high, but he had collected all of them. The value of one supreme-grade origin stone was equal to 100 high-grade origin stones. Chapter 1173. With so many origin stones in his hand, Duan Lingtian did not feel any pressure at all to compete in the auction. The opening price for the mysterious silver will begin at 100 high-grade origin stones. Soon after, Zhou Ji stood at the stage and announced loudly as he began the auction for the mysterious silver in his hands. 100 high-grade origin stones. Someone began to bid as soon as Zhou Ji's words left his mouth. 200 high-grade origin stones. As soon as the former's words left his mouth, another person followed suit. The functions of the mysterious silver clearly piqued many people's interest. 300 high-grade origin stones. 400 high-grade origin stones. People began to shout when they placed their bids. Soon after, the price of the mysterious silver had already reached 1,000 high-grade origin stones. However, the people joining in to bid did not lessen. In fact, it was equally as many as before. 1,100 high-grade origin stones. 1,200 high-grade origin stones. 2,100 high-grade origin stones. 2,200 high-grade origin stones. The sounds of people bidding reverberated in the air. Each time a bid was placed, the price would rise by 100 high-grade origin stones. Initially, Duan Lingtian could still endure. However, in the end, Duan Lingtian began to feel agitated. When somebody shouted, 3,200 high-grade origin stones, Duan Lingtian could no longer remain calm and placed his bid, 10,000 high-grade origin stones. Although Duan Lingtian's voice was not particularly loud, it still drowned out the commotion in Zhou Clan's auction square. 10,000 high-grade origin stones. The moment Duan Lingtian placed his bid, He attracted everyone's attention. Everyone's eyes immediately shifted to him. It's him. Soon after, many people began to recognize him. The woman beside him killed the young sect leader of true martial sect earlier. He killed the old man beside the young sect leader of true martial sect. Judging by the heaven and earth phenomenon gathered by the heaven and earth energy mobilized by the old man beside the young sect leader of true martial sect, the old man must be at the 5th or 6th level martial monarch stage at least. Yet, the sword wielded by him was blocked with just one finger. That man's strength must be at the 7th level martial monarch stage or above. Many people were whispering among themselves. Their eyes were filled with dread when they looked at Duan Lingtian. For a moment, nobody dared to place a bid. Perhaps it was because they were shocked by Duan Lingtian's high bid, or it could be they were scared of Duan Lingtian's strength that they did not dare to bid any further. After Zhou Ji counted down to 3, Duan Lingtian successfully obtained the mysterious silver. Duan Lingtian took out 10,000 high-grade origin stones and successfully exchanged it for the mysterious silver. Zhou Ji, the manager of the Zhou clan's auction square, even personally delivered the item to his hand. How arrogant! If you're that powerful, you can also be that arrogant. Many of the people sighed in agreement as they watched this scene. Congratulations, sir. After Zhou Ji passed the mysterious silver to Duan Lingtian, he smiled and congratulated him before he curiously asked, Sir, we can be considered as acquaintances now. I wonder what's your name, sir? Duan Lingtian raised his head and looked at the sky in the distance as though he had noticed something before he casually replied, You'll find out very soon. The moment Zhou Ji heard this, he left awkwardly. He thought Duan Lingtian was unwilling to tell him. Whoosh, 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 In the next instant, the sound of wind whistling reverberated in the air. The source of that noise came from the place where Duan Lingtian was staring at. They're here slower than I expected, Duan Lingtian muttered. On the other hand, everyone else, including Zhou Ji, were on their guards for all possible dangers. It was as though they were confronted by their enemy. Each of them had hints of dread on their faces when they heard that noise. Soon after, 5 figures appeared. A middle-aged man stood at the lead while the 4 old men who looked as though they were over 70 years old and approaching death soon. Wu Jian, Zhou Ji's face instantly turned grave when he saw the middle-aged man leading the group. He did not seem surprised by their appearance. It's Wu Jian, the young sect leader of true martial sect. Soon after, one of the customers in the Zhou clan's auction square also recognized the leader of the group of 5. The young sect leader of true martial sect. Wasn't he killed earlier? Many people were confused. The one who was killed earlier was the other young sect leader of true martial sect. The current sect leader of true martial sect has 2 sons. The one who was killed was the youngest son. This one's the eldest son. Ah, I see. However, this other young sect leader of true martial sect came pretty fast, didn't he? I heard this young sect leader of true martial sect is made a manager, and he's fully in charge of the true martial sect's industrial property in Ataraxia City. It's not strange that he made it here so quickly. Perhaps the lady in red who killed his brother has limited strength, but that purple-clad young man next to that lady in red is a powerhouse at the 7th level martial monarch stage or above. I'm afraid it's a little rash of him to come here with his own men instead of waiting for reinforcement from the other powerhouses in true martial sect. Rash? I guess you don't really know much, do you? This young sect leader of true martial sect is a monstrous genius in the martial Tao. He has already made a breakthrough to the 7th level martial monarch stage 2 years ago. Ah, really? Then I suppose we can look forward to watching a good show today. The entire Zhou clan's auction square burst into a commotion. The customers were not bidding anymore. Their gazes kept shifting between the 5 men descending from the sky and the pair of man and woman in the pergola nearby. They were the protagonists of the day. Wu Jian, the young sect leader of true martial sect. After listening to the discussion in his surroundings, Duan Lingtian discovered the identities of the newcomers. For a moment, he could not help but mutter under his breath, I wonder what expression that sect leader of true martial sect would make when he finds out both of his sons died by my hands. Soon after, Wu Jian, who was hovering in the air, glanced around the place. His eyes instantly landed on Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu before he asked in a deep voice, Are both of you the ones who killed my brother and the elder from my true martial sect? However, both of them did not seem bothered by him. Tianwu, stay here. Let me deal with him. Duan Lingtian said to Tianwu. After he received Tianwu's reply, he rose up from his seat at a speed that was neither fast nor slow and walked out of the pergola slowly. What? You want to abandon her and escape on your own. Wu Jian snorted when he saw this. Although she's the one who killed my brother, she would have been killed by the elder from my sect if you did not kill him. So don't even think of fleeing. Wu Jian's gaze was piercing when he looked at Duan Lingtian. Flee. Upon hearing Wu Jian's words, Duan Lingtian, who had just walked out of the pergola, was slightly stunned. This Wu Jian thought he wanted to flee. Zhou, who was standing on the auction stage, had a complicated expression on his face. Isn't Wu Jian underestimating his opponent a little? He was extremely clear about the purple-clad young man's strength. It was in no way inferior to his. In fact, it was much stronger than his strength. However, he did not plan to remind Wu Jian at all. Duan Lingtian did not leave as Wu Jian had expected. Instead, he walked out of the pergola and rose up into the air. In just a blink of an eye, he was already hovering in the air, locked in a stalemate with Wu Jian. He asked calmly, "You're the brother of that good-for-nothing man?" "Humph." Wu Jian snorted. The air in his surroundings seemed to have turned colder. One could see how infuriated he really was. "Do you really think just you alone would be enough to make me flee?" Duan Lingtian sized Wu Jian up and revealed a faint smile on his face. The expression on his face was still calm. He did not even bat an eyelid at this calamity before him. Judging from his words, it seemed like he thought nothing of Wu Jian. "You're seeking death." The moment Wu Jian heard Duan Lingtian's mockery, his eyes turned even colder as his body emitted a blood-curdling and cold aura. He, Wu Jian, was the son of the sect leader of true martial sect. He was an especially privileged person. Since he was young, he had already demonstrated an extremely monstrous innate talent and comprehension. Since then, he rose rapidly on the social ladder. When he was in his 40s, he made a breakthrough to the martial monarch stage and became a martial monarch. Currently, more than 10 years had passed, and he was already at the 7th level martial monarch stage. He had already become one of the main pillars in the true martial sect. Today, he was here to seek revenge for his beloved younger brother. However, he was humiliated by his enemy, and this caused the flame of fury in his heart to burn so intensely that he could no longer suppress it. It was on the verge of exploding. Boom! The origin energy on Wu Jian's body skyrocketed and transformed into milky white flames in just a blink of an eye, mobilizing the heaven and earth energy above his head that soon whirled and gathered into the heaven and earth phenomenon. The silhouette of one ancient black dragon appeared, vivid and lively. That ancient black dragon's enormous body gave a shocking visual impact to the onlookers. In the next second, the milky white flames changed and merged with a few profundities. When Wu Jian raised his hand, a 7-foot-long spear appeared in his hand. With a flick of that long spear, a sharp ray shot out like a dragon bursting out from its lair. The heaven and earth energy above his head whirled again immediately and finally gathered into the strength of 3 ancient black dragons and 1,000 ancient horned dragons. Die! Without any warning, Wu Jian bellowed and charged toward Duan Lingtian with his spear. It was as though he had transformed into a bolt of lightning that flashed across the sky. Boom, 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 comma. A series of explosions resonated in Wu Jian's wake. Rolling energy caused the air current in the air to tremble. It set off gusts of invisible airwaves that transformed into flurries of hurricanes and swept through the entire Zhou clan's auction square. Dust rose up in the air as the hurricane swept through the auction square. However, none of the customers in the auction square left. Their gazes were fixed on the purple figure hovering in the sky. They knew they were about to witness a once-in-a-lifetime show soon. Wu Jian, who was at the 7th level martial monarch stage, fighting the purple-clad young man who was also at the 7th level martial monarch stage. Young sect leader. The speed of Wu Jian's attack was so fast that the 4 old men behind him could not even react in time. By the time they regained their senses, their young sect leader had already made his move. At this moment, they had no choice but to brace themselves and follow suit, even though they did not feel very confident. In terms of strength, none of them was stronger than Wu Jian. However, who asked them to be the true martial sect's elders? Since the young sect leader had already made his move, how could they possibly stand idly at the side and watch? Whoosh! When Wu Jian and the 4 old men unleashed their attacks and charged toward Duan Lingtian suddenly disappeared before their eyes without any warning. It caused all their attacks to miss. How fast! An uproar immediately erupted among the customers in Zhou clan's auction square. Chapter 1174 Whoosh! As though a breeze had blown past, the purple figure was surrounded by Wu Jian and the other 4. However, he disappeared and reappeared again above Wu Jian and the others. He's there. That's incredibly fast. Even the young sect leader of true martial sect, an almighty 7th level martial monarch, could not react in time. I'm afraid his cultivation base may be higher than the 7th level martial monarch stage. I'm not sure about his cultivation base, but the fact that he could disappear under Wu Jian's nose means that Wu Jian is unable to keep up with his pace. His strength is much stronger than Wu Jian. The customers in Zhou Clan's auction square shifted their eyes to the space above Wu Jian and the others. The purple-clad young man standing there was none other than Duan Lingtian. By the time Wu Jian and the other 4 realized what was happening, they lifted their heads to look at the purple figure above. Horror dawned on their faces one by one. Why is his speed so fast? Colors drained from Wu Jian's face. As a 7th level martial monarch, naturally, he knew what such fast speed indicated. It indicated that this person's strength was far stronger than his because speed came from strength. The moment he recalled how fast this person's speed was, so fast that he could hardly capture it, a sense of helplessness rose in his heart. Young sect leader, I'm afraid we're no match for him, it's better if we retreat first. We'll decide what to do next after we notify the sect leader. That's right, young sect leader. As the saying goes, when there is life, there is still hope. There's no need for us to forfeit our lives in a momentary burst of anger. Young sect leader, the sect leader will definitely get revenge for little young sect leader's death. At this moment, the 4 old men by Wu Jian's side tried to persuade him one by one. They knew if he continued to persist, he would not die alone. The 4 of them would have to die together with him too. For martial monarchs like them, nobody knew better than them just how difficult it was to obtain their cultivation base. Due to this reason, they valued their lives even more. When Wu Jian heard of the 4 old men's voice transmissions, his expression instantly changed. In the end, he threw his head back and let out a roar. It was as though he was venting out his frustration. In the next instant, he sneered. Let's go. Upon finished saying that, he proceeded to bring the 4 old men to leave with him. Did I say you can go? Suddenly, a question sounded in the air. It caused Wu Jian and the other 4 to come to a halt. Colors drained from their faces when they looked at the source of the voice above their heads. The owner of the voice was none other than Duan Lingtian. Duan Lingtian hovered in the air as his robe fluttered lightly in the wind. He appeared extremely dashing. Along with that almost perfect handsome face, he attracted the love-struck gazes of many women in the Zhou clan's auction square. What, you still want to kill us? Wu Jian looked at Duan Lingtian and snorted. Our strength is not comparable to yours. However, if you dare to touch us, you'll be making an enemy out of the entire true martial sect. The true martial sect will never let you go. Young man, although your strength is quite remarkable, it's still far from being comparable to the powerhouses in our true martial sect. Listen to this old man's advice, don't endanger your life and others' lives. Another old man next to Wu Jian also chimed in. Arrogance could be heard in his voice. True martial sect, don't endanger my life and others' lives. Upon hearing Wu Jian and the old man's words, Duan Lingtian laughed hysterically, sending chills running up Wu Jian and the other's spine. What's he laughing at? Duan Lingtian undoubtedly attracted everyone's eyes in the Zhou clan's auction square. His laughter gave them goosebumps and chills. Do you all think he dares to kill Wu Jian and the others? Perhaps not. Just Wu Jia's death alone is already enough to make the sect leader of true martial sect blow his top. If Wu Jian dies as well, the sect leader of true martial sect will be without kin, and he'll most likely go insane. Moreover, I've long heard that Wu Jian, who's already at the 7th level martial monarch stage in his 50s, has long been regarded as the next successor of the sect leader of true martial sect. If he dies, not only the sect leader of true martial sect will be infuriated, all the senior officials of true martial sect will be furious too. Among all the strong powerhouses in true martial sect, only the sect leader of true martial sect will make a move if he kills Wu Jia. However, if he kills Wu Jian, the strongest powerhouses in true martial sect will be enraged and attack him as well. Yeah, due to this reason, I believe he doesn't have the guts to kill Wu Jian. At most, he'll just scare Wu Jian a little. I think so too, A discussion erupted in the Zhou clan's auction square. Many people felt the reason Duan Lingtian told Wu Jian and the others to stay was just to give them a good scare. Only 2 people did not think so. One of them was none other than Feng Tianwu. The other person was Zhou Ji. Although Zhou Ji only had one dealing with Duan Lingtian, that one time was enough to show him the young man's fearlessness. His arrogance knew no fear. That's right. It's easy for you to kill us. However, if you do, the consequences are not something you can bear, the other old man behind Wu Jian chimed in. The young sect leader is the successor of the next sect leader of our true martial sect. If you dare to kill him, you'll set yourself against the entire true martial sect. At that time, you'll be hunted down by the entire true martial sect. Another old man added. Hunted down by the true martial sect. Duan Lingtian's smile remained on his face as he muttered to himself, that sounds interesting. Well, in that case, to make the true martial sect hunt me down, I guess I have no choice but to sacrifice all of you. Duan Lingtian instantly looked at Wu Jian and the other four with a murderous glint in his eyes. The chill that his body emitted was like a cold wind that sent chills running up everyone's spines. Almost as soon as Duan Lingtian's words left his mouth, he raised his hand and a 3-foot-long blade that was solidified by a 5-color energy appeared and hovered next to him. In the next instant, as the air current around him trembled, another 8 3-foot-long blades that were formed by the 5-color energy appeared. A total of 9 3-foot-long blades appeared and hovered next to him. Shit! Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, horror dawned on Wu Jian and the other four. Flee! This was the only thought left in their minds. Whoosh, 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 Wu Jian rushed forward ahead of the others, wanting to flee first. The other four old men charged in different directions, struggling desperately to flee. Fleeing, Duan Lingtian smiled. In the next instant, his eyes turned cold as he spat 5 words out slowly, 9 Tribulation Sword Control Technique. The moment the word, technique, left his mouth, the 9 3-foot-long blades made by the 5-color energy from his body vanished without a trace before most people's eyes. Naturally, they did not really vanish. It was just that their speed was so fast that most people could not react in time. How fast? On the auction stage, Zhou Ji could roughly see a trace of Duan Lingtian's 9 swords that charged out in unison. The speed of the 9 swords was so fast that it took him by surprise, so much so that he broke out in cold sweat. His strength is really stronger than mine. This was the first thought that rose up in Zhou Ji's mind. If I attacked him earlier when he killed Zhou Li, I would have ended up like Zhou Li. He was absolutely certain about this. This purple-clad young man certainly possessed the strength to do so. Today, if those people present on the Zhou clan's auction square had lifted their heads, they would have been able to witness an unforgettable scene. As the 9 3-foot-long blades solidified from the 5-color energy vanished without a trace from the purple-clad young man's surroundings, Wu Jian and the other four who tried to escape suddenly came to a halt. Pissed, in the next instant, 5 blood mist shot out from their bodies each. It was extremely eye-catching as though they had transformed into 5 magnificent flames. In the next moment, the bodies of Wu Jian and the other four fell. After being dragged by the force of inertia, they smashed onto the ground violently in a bloody mess. Duan Lingtian hovered in the air as he watched the scene unfolding before his eyes calmly. As for the 9 3-foot-long blades next to his body that disappeared into thin air, they did not appear again. On the other hand, before the heaven and earth energy whirling above his head could gather into the heaven and earth phenomenon, it had already dissipated as though it was never there at all. Silence. The entire Zhou clan's auction square was so silent that it was blood-curdling. If a needle fell on the ground right now, the sound would most likely be clearly heard. Everybody's eyes shifted toward the purple figure in the air. At this moment, the purple figure that entered their sights seemed larger than life. It looks like I've underestimated him. The corner of Zhou Ji's mouth twitched violently. Earlier, he could tell the purple-clad young man was stronger than him when he escaped Wu Jian and the other four's attacks. However, he thought this young man was only slightly better than him, and there was not much of a difference between their strength. Right now, after he had witnessed how the purple-clad young man killed Wu Jian and the other four in just a blink of an eye, he truly realized the gap between him and the young man. I'm afraid it'll only take a second if he really wants to kill me. Zhou Ji's heart jolted. When he recalled the incident that had taken place at the backstage of the auction square, he still felt a sense of lingering fear. It was fortunate that he did not make any move at that time. Otherwise, he would not be standing here right now. Outside of the Zhou clan's auction square, 2 old men stood above an inconspicuous building. One of the old men asked, "He's the one who killed Zhou Li. His strength is at least at the 8th level martial monarch stage, possibly even stronger. However, I really must commend him for his courage. He actually dared to kill both of Wu Lai's sons. I wonder how furious will Wu Lai be if he finds out about this, another old man muttered under his breath before he turned toward the old man by his side. Second elder, your speed is fast. Make a trip to the true martial sect and tell Wu Lai about this. Wu Lai was the current sect leader of true martial sect. He was also the father of Wu Jia and Wu Jian, who had been killed by Feng Tian Wu and Duan Ling Tian one after another. Yes, clan leader. The moment the old man heard this, he replied before vanishing on the spot. It's a good thing the Grand Elder has not come out of his closed-door cultivation. Otherwise, with his temper, he won't be able to hold back from making a move. I wonder where did this young man come from? The remaining old man was none other than Zhou Zheng, the clan leader of Zhou clan. His eyebrows were knitted together as he stared at the purple figure in the distance. Chapter 1175. Under everyone's eyes, Duan Ling Tian descended and returned to Feng Tian Wu in the pergola after killing Wu Jian and the other four as though nothing happened. He acted as though he had no hand in what happened earlier. Meanwhile, everyone present felt numb in their scalp. Who was he? He really killed Wu Jian. The sect leader of true martial sect lost 2 sons at once. I'm sure he'll be furious when he finds out about this and leave the true martial sect's estate for Ataraxia City. Apart from the sect leader of true martial sect, the few old fellows who are the strongest in true martial sect won't let this go as well when they find out about Wu Jian's death. Many of them whispered among themselves, they were curious about Duan Ling Tian's outcome. However, looking at Duan Ling Tian who was sitting calmly in the pergola, it seemed as though everyone was too quick to react. Just as the saying went, the eunuch is worried before the emperor is worried. After Zhou Ji saw things had come to an end, he regained his senses and said loudly, we'll carry on with the auction. Meanwhile, the people from Zhou clan's auction square took care of the 5 bodies that were scattered on the ground. At this time, everyone at the Zhou clan's auction square shifted their eyes away from Duan Ling Tian to Zhou Ji, the host of the auction. The auction went on. However, many of them would look at Duan Ling Tian every now and then during the bidding of items. It seemed like they wanted to see if Duan Ling Tian was interested in the auction items. They were afraid they would irritate that mysterious powerhouse if they were to bid higher than him and brought death upon themselves. They had to be cautious on Cloud Continent where the powerhouse is ruled. Duan Ling Tian would be rendered speechless if he knew what they thought. He was here for the auction, not to be a robber. Furthermore, did he look like a robber? When the customers saw Duan Ling Tian had closed his eyes to conserve energy after a long time and did not show any interest in the auction items, they felt relieved and began to bid as they pleased. Time passed by silently. The auction items were sold at a high price one after another. This grade 1 spirit saber in my hand is the first item in today's grand finale, Zhou Ji said from the auction stage. A discussion filled with disapproval immediately erupted among the guests. Grade 1 spirit saber, grand finale. You must be joking, Manager Zhou Ji. Many of them mocked Zhou Ji when he finished speaking. That's right, Manager Zhou Ji. It's just a grade 1 spirit saber. How's it worthy of being in the grand finale of this big auction fair held by the Zhou clan once every 3 months? It's better if you just auction it off now. I agree. Although a grade 1 spirit saber's precious, it's nothing when it comes to an auction like this. Many of them laughed as they spoke. HMPH. Naturally, there were people who disagreed with what was said earlier. Don't forget that Manager Zhou Ji auctioned off 2 grade 1 spirit weapons before the grand finale. Do you think a grade 1 spirit saber that the Zhou clan deemed worthy to be in the grand finale would be a normal grade 1 spirit weapon? Someone said after thinking the matter through. 2 grade 1 spirit weapons had already been auctioned off earlier. The grade 1 spirit saber currently in Zhou Ji's hands was the 3rd grade 1 spirit weapon. There must be something extraordinary about the grade 1 spirit saber since Zhou Ji told them it would be in the grand finale of the auction. Manager Zhou Ji, is that the truth? Many of them asked the same question. That's right, Zhou Ji nodded when he saw all the eyes that were trained on him. This grade 1 spirit saber in my hands is the best grade among all grade 1 spirit weapons. I guess you understand why it is worthy of being in the grand finale of today's auction fair. The crowd went silent as soon as Zhou Ji was done speaking. Only the sound of breathing could be heard. The best grade among grade 1 spirit weapons. They knew what it was naturally. Only grade 1 spirit weapons that could grant an 89% boost in power were worthy of being called the best among all grade 1 spirit weapons. With that said, the grade 1 spirit saber in Manager Zhou Ji's hand had to be a grade 1 spirit saber that gave an 89% power boost. The difference between a grade 1 spirit weapon that gave an 89% boost and an 88% boost was insignificant. Such a difference in power could be made up for with battle experience and martial skill techniques. However, to grade 1 weapons craftsmen, a grade 1 spirit weapon like that was a rare treasure since they could study it and use it to improve their personal weapons crafting skills. That was why grade 1 spirit weapons like that was extremely valuable. Naturally, being able to possess a grade 1 spirit weapon like that was something worth boasting about since it was extremely rare on Cloud Continent. Just like the saying went, when the fruit is scarce, its taste is the sweetest. Grade 1 spirit weapon that gives an 89% power boost. At this moment, even Duan Lingtian opened his eyes. He looked interested as he observed the grade 1 spirit saber in Zhou hands. As someone who had inherited the rebirth martial emperor's life memory as well as his weapons crafting techniques and experience, Duan Lingtian naturally knew how difficult it was to craft a grade 1 weapon that granted an 89% boost. I can't believe there's someone who can refine a grade 1 spirit weapon like this, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. When Duan Lingtian was looking at the grade 1 spirit saber in Zhou hand, the people who were sitting in the VIP area shifted their attention from the grade 1 spirit saber to Duan Lingtian. They were eager to bid for the grade 1 spirit saber. However, they looked at Duan Lingtian when they recalled what a fiend Duan Lingtian was. They wanted to know if Duan Lingtian was interested in the grade 1 spirit saber like they were. He's looking at the grade 1 spirit saber. Could he be interested in the grade 1 spirit saber too? Isn't it obvious that he is? Who would dare to fight him over something that he desires? Aren't you wearing a mask? Why are you afraid? Do you think a mask would matter to a powerhouse at such a level like him? He could kill me after he obtains the grade 1 spirit saber from the bidding. That's true, the people in the VIP area discussed among themselves. Those without a mask had a bitter expression on their faces. Meanwhile, nobody could see the expression of those hiding under their masks, but they were shaking their heads as they sighed. Duan Lingtian heard their discussion clearly. It made him speechless. He could not help but frown as he said, "All of you, are you treating me like a robber? My interest in this stupid saber aside, even if I'm interested, I wouldn't use such a dirty tactic to obtain it. Moreover, if I'm really robbing this thing, the Zhou clan's auction fair can just close up for the day because I might as well rob everything here," Duan Lingtian said. The crowd was a little embarrassed by Duan Lingtian's words. However, they were certain of something from his words. Duan Lingtian was not interested in the grade 1 spirit saber. He even called it a stupid saber. "Don't worry, this sir is not interested in this grade 1 spirit saber in my hand," Zhou spoke at that moment. He knew the reason like the back of his hand. There were two items that replaced the grade 1 spirit saber in his hands to be the grand finale's item. One of the items was a grade 1 spirit weapon that was even more perfect than this grade 1 spirit saber. The purple-clad young man was the one who put that grade 1 spirit weapon up for auction. Naturally, the purple-clad young man would not be interested in the grade 1 spirit saber. After listening to Duan Lingtian and Zhou words, the people nodded one after another. They were no longer worried as they looked at the grade 1 spirit saber in Zhou hands desperately. "We'll start the bidding for the grade 1 spirit saber that gives an 89% power boost at the price of 3,000 high-grade origin stones." 3,000 high-grade origin stones. Duan Lingtian's jaw dropped when he heard what Zhou said. One must know that crafting a grade 1 spirit weapon would only cost approximately 100 high-grade origin stones with all the materials included. Naturally, that was only the cost of the materials. Seems like the grade 1 spirit sword that I'm putting up for auction will have a higher opening bid than this one, Duan Lingtian thought to himself. When Duan Lingtian was lost in his thoughts, the bid for the grade 1 spirit saber in Zhou hand was at 10,000 high-grade origin stones. Moreover, the price was going up. 30,000 high-grade origin stones. 40,000 high-grade origin stones. Currently, those who were bidding were guests at the VIP area. The guests from the non-VIP area remained silent. It's crazy that these people are willing to hand out so many high-grade origin stones just like that. Duan Lingtian looked around the VIP area and glanced at each and every one of them. It crossed his mind that he would be able to make a fortune if he killed everyone there. Naturally, it was just a thought. He was not lacking in high-grade origin stones at the moment. The Lingtian sect he took charge of would mine high-grade origin stones from the high-grade origin stone vein every year under his watch. They would obtain tens of thousands and even hundreds of thousands of origin stones each year. If he wanted to, he could get more Ling Tian sect's disciples to mine for more high-grade origin stones. Eventually, the Grade 1 Spirit Saber that gave an 89% power boost was sold to a person at 110,000 high-grade origin stones. Haha, I'm sorry everyone. The Grade 1 Spirit Saber was sold to an old man with white hair and a mask on his face. After he chuckled, he took out a spatial ring containing 110,000 high-grade origin stones to exchange for the Grade 1 Spirit Saber. What a great saber! The old man was happy when he obtained the Spirit Saber. 110,000 high-grade origin stones. Just for that stupid saber. Duan Ling Tian could not believe a Grade 1 Spirit Saber that gave an 89% power boost could be sold at such a high price. I wonder, will the Grade 1 Spirit Sword I put up for auction fetch an even higher price? Duan Ling Tian began to feel a little excited. Chapter 1176. Meanwhile, the people in the Zhou clan's auction square were talking about the final item of the grand finale. The items even replaced that Grade 1 spirit weapon. Seems like the final item of the Zhou clan's auction fair isn't something ordinary. I'm curious what's able to replace the Grade 1 spirit saber that costs 110,000 high-grade origin stones. This is exciting, The people looked at Zhou Ji in anticipation. Some of them could not help but say, Manager Zhou Ji, bring out the final item for the auction fair already. That's right, stop keeping us in suspense. We're waiting, many of them urged Zhou Ji. Please be patient, everyone, we'll definitely bring out the Zhou clan's auction fair's final items. I'm just thinking which one should we auction off first, Zhou Ji said. Which one to auction off first? Many of them were stunned after they heard Zhou Ji's words. Some, on the other hand, reacted instantly and exclaimed, Manager Zhou Ji, are you saying, there's more than one item for today's auction fair's finale? More than one item in the finale. At this moment, everyone, apart from Duan Ling Tian and Feng Tian Wu, was shocked. That's right, there are 2 items for today's auction fair's finale, Zhou Ji responded with a smile on his face. 2 items. As soon as Zhou Ji finished speaking, gasps echoed in the venue. Since it's the final items, the items must be even better than the Grade 1 Spirit Saber that gives an 89% power boost. It seems like the Zhou clan's auction fair will be bringing out 2 great items today. 2 items that are even better than the best Grade 1 spirit weapon. This is too exciting. Thinking about it excites me. At this moment, many of them were trembling in excitement. Alright, I've made up my mind. Among the 2 final items, we'll put the Grade 1 spirit weapon up for auction first, Zhou Ji said. He stood on the stage as all eyes were glued on him. Grade 1 spirit weapon. The crowd fell silent as soon as Zhou Ji spoke. Another Grade 1 spirit weapon. Manager Zhou Ji, is this a mistake? That's right. The final item has to be better than the Grade 1 spirit saber that was auctioned off earlier, right? Many people began to voice out their doubts. In their opinion, the Grade 1 spirit saber that was considered the best among Grade 1 spirit weapons was already considered the ultimate king among Grade 1 spirit weapons. It was sold at the high price of 110,000 high-grade origin stones. Now that they heard Zhou Ji said one of the 2 final items that replaced the Grade 1 spirit saber was also a Grade 1 spirit weapon, it was only natural that they thought he made a mistake. Perhaps it never occurred to them that Grade 1 spirit weapons that surpassed the Grade 1 spirit saber existed. Please be patient, everyone, you can ask questions if you have any doubts after I'm done introducing this Grade 1 spirit weapon. After calming the people down, Zhou Ji lifted his arm and brought out a sword. It was the Grade 1 spirit sword that Duan Ling Tian put up for auction. Meanwhile, everyone in the Zhou clan's auction square had their eyes glued on the Grade 1 spirit sword in Zhou Ji's hand. They all looked at it skeptically. I can't tell what's so special about this Grade 1 spirit sword. Many of them whispered to one another. Everyone, this Grade 1 spirit sword in my hand replaced that Grade 1 spirit saber earlier and became one of the final items. Zhou Li paused as he spoke to this point. He kept the people in suspense for a moment before he continued to say, because it gives a 90% power boost. Zhou Ji's turned serious as he spoke. 90%. The crowd fell silent as soon as Zhou Ji was done speaking. Gulp, gulp, comma. At that moment, clear gulping noises, as well as gasps, could be heard among the crowd. Grade 1 spirit weapon that gives a 90% power boost. Manager Zhou Ji, are you sure you're not joking? A middle-aged man in the VIP area asked seriously. Sir, I'm sure you trust our Zhou clan's auction fair's reputation. That's why you're willing to pay the price to get yourself a seat at the VIP area. Do you think the Zhou clan's auction fair would deceive you? Zhou Ji smiled in the face of all the doubts. Manager Zhou Ji, that's not what I mean, I just find it unbelievable, the middle-aged man said, embarrassed. Sir, if you have any doubts, you're welcome to try it out, Zhou Ji said. The middle-aged man's eyes lit up when he heard what Zhou Ji said. He then looked at a much younger-looking man seated next to him. Junior brother, go try it. The young man nodded. He left the pergola immediately and walked to the auction stage. As the senior brother, the middle-aged man spoke on behalf of the young man who went up to the stage. My junior brother's cultivation base is at the 7th level void transformation stage. He can mobilize 1000 ancient horned dragons' strength with his origin energy alone. If the sword in Manager Zhou Ji's hand can really give a 90% power boost, that means he'll gain an additional 900 ancient horned dragons' strength. At this moment, everyone looked at the young man in anticipation. Duan Lingtian remained calm as he watched the scene unfolding before his eyes. When the young man tested out the grade 1 spirit weapon in Zhou Ji's hand, 900 ancient horned dragon silhouettes appeared next to the 1000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes above the young man's head. Meanwhile, an uproar erupted among the crowd as expected. The grade 1 spirit weapon that gave a 90% power boost shocked everyone. Everyone was going crazy over it. Duan Lingtian was happy to see the people going crazy over it since it meant those people would fight for his grade 1 spirit sword. However, his face turned gloomy instantly. He realized a lot of people at the VIP area were looking at him again. They seemed like they wanted to know if he was interested in the grade 1 spirit weapon. It seemed like they felt apprehensive. Apprehensive? I must get rid of that apprehension immediately. What kind of joke was that? He was the one who put the grade 1 spirit sword up for auction at the Zhou clan's auction fair. If nobody was bidding, nobody other than him would have to bear the great loss. Why are you looking at me? I'm not interested in the stupid saber and sword, Duan Lingtian said impatiently. He did not bother to say that he would not rob the auction items. Stupid saber, stupid sword. Many people's lips twitched when they heard Duan Lingtian's words. They could not tell whether he was telling the truth or lying at this moment. A grade 1 spirit saber that gave an 89% power boost, the best among grade 1 spirit weapons, was called a stupid saber by him. Now he called a grade 1 spirit sword that gave a 90% power boost that was even better than the grade 1 spirit saber a stupid sword. In their opinion, Duan Lingtian's words were ridiculous. However, they were certain of one thing. That fiend was not interested in the grade 1 spirit sword that was being auctioned off at the moment. At this moment, the breathing of the people at the VIP area quickened. Many of them were preparing and waiting for the grade 1 spirit sword to be auctioned off. Compared to the din during the auction of the grade 1 spirit saber, it was deathly quiet now. The grade 1 spirit sword was truly the best among all grade 1 spirit weapons. Why did I buy the stupid saber? I should have held on to the origin stones to buy this sword. The old man who bought the grade 1 spirit saber earlier had a forced smile on his face. This was because he spent 110,000 high-grade origin stones to bid for the grade 1 spirit saber earlier, and now he did not have enough origin stones to bid for the grade 1 spirit sword that was more precious. He was filled with regrets now. I don't think I have to tell you how precious this grade 1 spirit sword is. Those who know will know. Now, I would like to open the bid for this grade 1 spirit sword at 5,000 high-grade origin stones. Zhou Ji spoke loudly, standing on the auction stage. 5,000 high-grade origin stones. Compared to the grade 1 spirit saber's opening bid, the opening bid for the grade 1 spirit sword was 2,000 high-grade origin stones more. Duan Lingtian was satisfied with the opening bid. He was so happy that a smile appeared on his face. 10,000 high-grade origin stones. Someone shouted quickly. What a miser, 50,000 high-grade origin stones. Somebody called out. Aren't you a miser yourself? 100,000 high-grade origin stones. The third person bid 100,000 high-grade origin stones. HMPH. The stupid saber earlier was sold at 110,000 high-grade origin stones. It's embarrassing that you guys are bidding lower than the stupid saber after so long. 150,000 high-grade origin stones. The fourth person said loudly. Apart from the first bidder, the second, third, and fourth bidders were from the VIP area. 150,000 high-grade origin stones. Duan Lingtian was shocked. He did not expect a grade 1 spirit weapon that he refined casually would fetch such a ridiculous price. One had to know he only spent 80 to 90 origin stones on materials to refine this sword. The weapons crafting techniques and experience that the rebirth martial emperor left for me is such a great fortune, I won't ever lack origin stones with this skill alone, Duan Lingtian exclaimed inwardly. 300,000 high-grade origin stones. Duan Lingtian was not paying attention to his surrounding until he heard a loud voice that caught his attention. It caught his attention, not because of the high price but because of the person who bid at such a high price. That person was none other than Zhou, who stood on the auction stage. It was clear that he represented the Zhou clan to bid for the Grade 1 spirit sword in his hand. Zhou clans so bold, it was only at 190,000 high-grade origin stones before they bid at 300,000 high-grade origin stones, many people exclaimed. Naturally, the Grade 1 spirit sword ended up in the Zhou clan's hand. The people did not give up because they feared the Zhou clan. It was because they could not afford to bid higher, or they did not think the Grade 1 spirit sword was worth more than what the Zhou clan bid. Chapter 1177 Chapter 1178, Making Big Profits with a Small Capital. After the Grade 1 spirit sword was sold at the ridiculous price of 300,000 high-grade origin stones to Zhou, who represented the Zhou clan's auction fair came to its peak. This is the final item. I'm sure the final item must be outstanding since manager Zhou placed it at the end of the auction. This is exciting, everyone had their eyes on Zhou as they waited for the final item. Zhou did not disappoint the crowd as he took out a medicinal pill bottle after putting the Grade 1 spirit sword away. It was an ordinary medicinal pill bottle. Medicinal pill. Many of them were disappointed when they saw the medicinal pill bottle. Medicinal pill. Even if it was a Grade 1 medicinal pill, it was incomparable to a Grade 1 spirit weapon in terms of value. Naturally, that was if it was a Grade 1 medicinal pill with normal purity. I believe the medicinal pill that manager Zhou placed at the end of the auction must be extraordinary, someone said and looked at Zhou eagerly. Many people agreed with what he said. Zhou shook the medicinal pill bottle in his hand while he stood on the auction stage. He said to the crowd before him, "Everyone. There's a medicinal pill in the medicinal pill bottle in my hand. This medicinal pill is the final item of our Zhou clan's auction fair today. This is the final item." A medicinal pill. Zhou's words surprised many people. It was excusable to have a medicinal pill bottle full of medicinal pills with high purity as the grand finale's item, but it was a little stingy that there was only one medicinal pill in the bottle. That was what most people thought. However, that thought vanished as soon as Zhou introduced the medicinal pill as a Grade 1 life recovery pill with 91% purity. The entire place fell silent. A life recovery pill with 91% purity. Its medicinal efficacy, doesn't that mean its medicinal efficacy is a few folds higher than the usual Grade 1 life recovery pills? Many of them said with a shocked expression on their faces. Manager Zhou, I wonder if you can bring out the Grade 1 life recovery pill out for an old man like me to have a look. An old man wearing a mask in the VIP area stood up. Everyone, including Zhou, had their eyes on him as a purple flame with silver edges appeared on his palm when he lifted his arm. It was a Grade 2 pill fire. Based on that, everyone could tell the old man was a Grade 2 alchemist. He made that request because he did not really believe a Grade 1 medicinal pill with 91% purity existed. He wanted to confirm that for himself. Although Zhou clan's auction fair had maintained a good reputation since they had never cheated anyone, a Grade 1 medicinal pill with 91% purity was too ridiculous. It was a little hard for him to believe. Of course, Zhou nodded and took out the Grade 1 life recovery pill from the medicinal pill bottle at the same time. He presented it to the old man who had arrived on stage like a gust of wind. The masked old man examined the Grade 1 life recovery pill. The emotion in his eyes instantly changed from curious to surprise before it was eventually filled with shock. Soon after, the masked old man's breath quickened. He could not help but exclaim, It really is a Grade 1 life recovery pill with 91% purity." His voice was filled with shock and disbelief. An uproar erupted at the Zhou clan's auction fair once again after hearing the affirmation from the old man. Most of them were unwilling to pay such a high price for the Grade 1 spirit sword that gave a 90% power boost earlier. However, they would do anything to fight for this Grade 1 life recovery pill with 91% purity. As a healing medicinal pill, a Grade 1 life recovery pill was beneficial in many ways. The Grade 1 life recovery pill with 91% purity's medicinal efficacy was many folds more powerful than the usual Grade 1 life recovery pill. Although it could not revive a dead person or regenerate flesh on bones, it was almost at that level. How could they not be moved by this kind medicinal pill that could save lives during critical moments? Everyone only had one life. They would be dead if their life was taken away. Was it not worth it to go broke in order to save one's life? It was completely silent in the Zhou clan's auction square. All that could be heard was the sound of heavy breathing. It caused the atmosphere to turn tensed. At this moment, everyone, excluding Duan Lingtian and Feng Tianwu, had their eyes on the grade 1 life recovery pill in Zhou Ji's hand. Duan Lingtian looked at Tianwu and asked with a smile, "Tianwu, how much do you think I can get for this grade 1 life recovery pill?" "It won't be any lower than the sword earlier," Tianwu said. Duan Lingtian forced a smile on his face. Would it not be better if she did not answer at all, since what she said was redundant? Meanwhile, the bid for the grade 1 life recovery pill had begun. Dear customers, I don't think I need to explain further on what this grade 1 life recovery pill with 91% purity can do, so, let's start the auction. The opening bid is 10,000 high-grade origin stones. Zhou Ji said loudly on the auction stage. 100,000 high-grade origin stones. Someone in the VIP area bid as soon as Zhou Ji was done speaking. The people seated at the non-VIP area shook their heads one after another. They knew there was no way they could bid now. 200,000 high-grade origin stones. The second person from the VIP area bid soon after. 250,000 high-grade origin stones. The third person followed without further delay. Seems like it'll surpass the grade 1 spirit sword's price soon. Duan Lingtian revealed a smile on his face. If all the materials that were needed to refine the grade 1 spirit sword only cost 100 high-grade origin stones, then the materials needed to refine a cauldron of 10 grade 1 life recovery pills would cost tens of high-grade origin stones at the most. However, the grade 1 medicinal pill that only cost a couple of high-grade origin stones was being sold at hundreds of thousands of high-grade origin stones. He was definitely making big profits with a small capital. 400,000 high-grade origin stones. A familiar voice reverberated in the air. It was Zhou Ji on the auction stage who represented the Zhou clan to bid for the grade 1 life recovery pill that Duan Lingtian put up for auction. He had bid 400,000 high-grade origin stones. 450,000 high-grade origin stones. Someone bid after him this time. 500,000 high-grade origin stones. Zhou Ji bid again. That was when he defeated the crowd and obtained the grade 1 life recovery pill in his hand. Too bad I have limited high-grade origin stones with me. Otherwise, the grade 1 life recovery pill would have been mine. Many of the people in the VIP area sighed as they shook their heads. 800,000 high-grade origin stones altogether. Duan Lingtian had a charming smile on his face. In his opinion, he obtained the high-grade origin stones way too easily. Naturally, he knew it was because the two items that he brought were rare. Just like the saying went, when the fruit is scarce, its taste is the sweetest. It described the situation perfectly. They would not be as valuable if he brought out 10 or 20 grade 1 spirit swords or hundreds of grade 1 life recovery pills of the same level. Our Zhou clan's auction fair has come to an end. Thank you for coming. Zhou Ji bade everyone goodbye with a smile as he stood on the auction stage. At this time, many people were getting up from their seats to leave. Wait. At this moment, a voice sounded out of nowhere. Although it was not loud, it was like a clap of thunder that stunned everyone, including Zhou Ji. They all turned to look at the source of the voice. It's him. The people had fear in their eyes when they looked at the person. They were naturally looking at Duan Lingtian. Zhou Ji did not dare be negligent as he asked Duan Lingtian respectfully, "Sir, is there anything that I can help you with? Earlier, I managed to get 800,000 high-grade origin stones from the two items that I put up for auction at your Zhou clan's auction fair. Shouldn't you give me the 800,000 high-grade origin stones now?" Duan Lingtian said to Zhou Ji as everyone looked on. FWAH. Duan Lingtian's words shocked everyone. It's him who put the sword and grade 1 life recovery pill up for auction. No wonder he called the sword stupid and was not interested in the grade 1 life recovery pill. He was the one who put the items up for auction. At this moment, everyone regained their senses. They finally understood why that fiend did not bid for the two rare items. It was because he was the owner of the items. "Sir, according to the rules at our Zhou clan's auction fair, the earnings will only be given to the consignors after the auction ended." Zhou Ji was rendered speechless by Duan Lingtian, who revealed his identity as the owner of the two items. However, he still explained patiently, moreover, I don't have so many high-grade origin stones with me. I'll have to get them from the Zhou clan's estate. You have to get them from the Zhou clan's estate. What if you bail? Duan Lingtian asked with a frown. Don't worry, sir. Our Zhou clan will never do anything to tarnish our reputation. Zhou Ji forced a smile on his face. Then go back to that Zhou clan's estate of yours immediately to get the origin stones. I'll be waiting for you here. Also, everyone, please don't leave just yet. Please be my witness. Duan Lingtian frowned and shifted his focus to the people present. After obtaining the 800,000 high-grade origin stones, I'll tell everyone about how the Grade 1 Spirit Sword and Grade 1 Life Recovery Pill that I put up for auction came about. FWAH. An uproar broke out just as expected as soon as Duan Lingtian finished speaking. The most memorable thing for the people today was undoubtedly the Grade 1 Spirit Sword that gave a 90% power boost and the Grade 1 Life Recovery Pill with 91% purity that Zhou clan obtained. A lot of them even thought that letting the sword and pill slip through their fingers would be something they regret for the rest of their lives. Now that the person who put the sword and pill up for auction wanted to tell them how the sword and pill came about, how could they not be shocked? How could they not be excited? Manager Zhou Ji quickly returned to the Zhou clan's estate to get the high-grade origin stones. Many of them immediately urged Zhou Ji. Chapter 1178. Manager Zhou Ji, do you want me to lend you 300,000 high-grade origin stones? You can return them to me later. I can't wait to find out how the sword and the pill came about, an old man in the VIP area said to Zhou Ji. The old man bid for the Grade 1 Life Recovery Pill earlier, but he did not manage to get it as he did not have enough origin stones with him. I've got 200,000 high-grade origin stones with me here. I can lend it to the Zhou clan too. I've faith in the Zhou clan's reputation. I can lend them 300,000 high-grade origin stones too, another two persons echoed. In the end, they gathered 800,000 high-grade origin stones just like that. It was evident that they were desperate to know how the sword and the pill came about. They might even get the opportunity to obtain a Grade 1 Spirit Sword and a Grade 1 Life Recovery Pill of the same level. Just as Zhou Ji was speechless and clueless as to what to do, a voice came from afar. It was getting closer and closer. Thank you so much for everyone's kindness, but I don't think our Zhou clan needs to borrow any high-grade origin stones just yet. A distinguished old man appeared. The old man was walking in the air. Every step he took seemed as if he merged with heaven and earth perfectly. Judging by that alone, one could tell that the old man's cultivation base was extraordinary. Clan leader. As soon as the old man appeared, Zhou Ji was already bowing to him respectfully. Clan leader. The people present were surprised to hear how Zhou Ji addressed him. There seemed to be only one person that Zhou Ji would call clan leader. It was the clan leader of the Zhou clan of Ataraxia City, Zhou Zheng. Pleased to meet you, Zhou clan leader. At that time, everyone greeted Zhou Zheng one after another, their tones filled with respect and awe. Apart from his identity as the clan leader of Zhou clan, Zhou Zheng was also a great powerhouse with extraordinary abilities. It was rumored that he was on the 8th level martial monarch stage and grasped powerful profundities. He was one of the best in the entire Zhou clan. As opposed to everyone's enthusiasm, Duan Lingtian seemed calm as he looked at Zhou Zheng like an ancient well without a single ripple on its water surface. He behaved as if the old man that appeared before him was just an ordinary old man instead of the leader of a first-rate force. As Duan Lingtian was observing Zhou Zheng was checking him out too. Sir, on behalf of the Zhou clan, I'd like to apologize to you for what Zhou Li did earlier, Zhou Zheng said while smiling lightly. If apologies worked, why would martial artists cultivate? Just when the people found it odd that Zhou Zheng was apologizing to Duan Lingtian's response almost made them spit blood. How could he not be grateful for the clan leader of the Zhou clan, a first-rate force, apologizing to him? Zhou Zheng was rendered speechless by Duan Lingtian's response. He only asked after a while, what do you have in mind, sir? I sold 2 items at 800,000 high-grade origin stones at your Zhou clan's auction fair. I'll accept your apology if you round it up to 1 million high-grade origin stones for me, Duan Lingtian announced. What a rip-off. Even before Zhou Zheng could react to what Duan Lingtian said, most of the crowd gasped in disbelief. Although they had no idea what conflict Duan Lingtian had with the Zhou clan, Duan Lingtian asking for 200,000 high-grade origin stones as an apology from the Zhou clan now was a total rip-off. To their surprise, the clan leader of Zhou clan Zhou Zheng chuckled when he snapped back to his senses. He then took out a spatial ring casually and handed it to Duan Lingtian. Here are 1 million high-grade origin stones for you, the 800,000 belong to you while the other 200,000 can be considered as our apology to you. Zhou Zheng looked at Duan Lingtian while grinning. Sir, our conflict should be over by now. I wonder if you could tell me more about yourself. We'll talk about it after I check the spatial ring. Duan Lingtian took the spatial ring that Zhou Zheng handed to him. Zhou Zheng looked surprised and embarrassed at the same time. Duan Lingtian took a good look at it after performing the blood ownership claim. Yes, that's 1 million high-grade origin stones. After a while, Duan Lingtian confirmed and nodded in satisfaction. Duan Lingtian's behavior made the crowd twitch their lips. Was this guy actually worried that the clan leader of the Zhou clan would deceive him? Sir, now, can you tell us how the sword and the pill that you auctioned came about? Someone asked desperately, seeing Duan Lingtian putting away the spatial ring that Zhou Zheng handed to him. At that time, apart from Feng Tianwu, everyone including Zhou Zheng and Zhou Ji had their eyes on Duan Lingtian. It was clear that they were curious. To the others, whatever Duan Lingtian was going to reveal would decide if they would have the opportunity to obtain such scarce items like the sword and the pill. Meanwhile, Zhou Zheng and Zhou Ji wanted to know the identity of the purple-clad young man who stood before them. Of course there's no, Just when Duan Lingtian was going to tell the crowd that it was no problem to reveal the secret, he seemed to notice something. Trailing off mid-sentence, he looked up at the eastern sky. Who's that? As Duan Lingtian was looking into the east, Zhou Zheng noticed the newcomer too. His face turned somber, and his robe fluttered even though there was no wind. At that moment, a silhouette wearing a silvery blue robe appeared. It was a bearded old man with a ripped body. The old man looked gloomy at that moment, and his saucer-like eyes seemed like they could spit fire. Zhou Zheng was shocked the second he saw the bearded old man. He came out from his closed-door cultivation. Who killed my son, Zhou Li? Before Zhou Zheng could react, the bearded old man arrived above the Zhou clan's auction fair. His piercing voice came from above, and it was filled with extreme rage. Zhou Li. Duan Lingtian frowned after he figured who the person was. He still remembered the Zhou clan disciple who had attempted to rob his Grade 1 spirit sword and Grade 1 life recovery pills at the auction backstage. Duan Lingtian had severed his cultivation base before killing him. Zhou Ji had mentioned that Zhou Li was the Zhou clan Grand Elder's only son after Duan Lingtian had killed him. Therefore, the bearded old man's identity was self-explanatory. He was the Grand Elder of the Zhou clan. Grand Elder, why are you here? Zhou Zheng ascended into the sky and frowned as he looked at the Zhou clan Grand Elder. Clan leader, even I were to ditch my position as the Grand Elder of the Zhou clan or even cut off my relationship with the Zhou clan today, I'll never let go of the person who killed my son, Zhou Li. The Grand Elder of the Zhou clan boomed with his deep voice in rage. He happened to come out of closed-door cultivation today and had heard about his son being killed. At that second, all he could feel was his chest burning in fury, which was hard for him to suppress. Many Zhou clan elders explained to him what had happened then. They even told him that the person who had killed his son Zhou Li was extraordinary. However, as he looked at his only son's body, he could not accept the fact that his son had died at such a tender age before he himself kicked the bucket. Therefore, he had rushed to the Zhou clan's auction fair immediately. Grand Elder, I don't think it's necessary for you to do that. Zhou Zheng could not help but force a smile, facing the old man's determination. Clan leader, I'll kill him today even if he's extraordinary. I'll announce that I'm leaving the Zhou clan after killing him, so I won't put the clan into any trouble, the Zhou clan Grand Elder said. No matter what, I must avenge my son today. Grand Elder, what if I must stop you from doing that? Zhou Zheng looked serious now. To him, whether the purple-clad young man was no match for their Zhou clan Grand Elder, the Zhou clan would be at a loss as soon as their Grand Elder attacked. If the purple-clad young man were no match for the Grand Elder of the Zhou clan, the latter would be in a pickle after killing the young man. The only thing that he could do was to leave the Zhou clan and become a fugitive. If that happened, the Zhou clan would lose a powerhouse who was as solid as a pillar of support. However, if the purple-clad young man were more powerful than the Grand Elder of the Zhou clan, the clan would still lose such a powerhouse if the Grand Elder was killed. Therefore, the only choice that he had now was to stop the Grand Elder. Clan leader, you can't stop me, the Grand Elder said as he glanced at Zhou Zheng faintly. Grand Elder, I don't care if I can stop you or not, but I'll give it a try anyway. If possible, I don't want the Zhou clan to lose you. Zhou Zheng took a deep breath and said in his deep voice. If that's what you think, don't blame me for doing this to you. The Grand Elder of the Zhou clan's eyes turned frigid while he dashed towards Zhou Zheng like a lightning bolt. It was so fast that most of the people could not even catch his movement. In their eyes, it seemed like the Zhou clan Grand Elder vanished in thin air. The other person who vanished later on was the clan leader of the Zhou clan, Zhou Zheng. Bang, 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 gusts of air exploding came from above as majestic airwaves turned into strong winds blowing in all directions rampantly. The wild, strong winds swept through the ground, and the robes on everyone including Duan Lingtian fluttered madly in the breeze. Why is the Zhou clan Grand Elder fighting the clan leader of the Zhou clan? Many of them asked in shock as they watched the flashing silhouettes in the air. I think the Zhou clan Grand Elder's son was killed. He's here to look for the person who killed his son, but the background of the murder seems to be complicated. At least, the clan leader of the Zhou clan appears to have misgivings. I heard that too. Hearing what the Zhou clan Grand Elder said, he'll leave the Zhou clan if he kills the person who killed his son. It's clear that he doesn't want to put the clan through the trouble. I wonder who killed his son. Many of them discussed among themselves. However, they had no idea that the person they were talking about was just standing next to them. 9th level martial monarch stage. I guess the clan leader of the Zhou clan will be defeated. The inability of the onlookers to catch the movements of the clan leader and the Zhou clan Grand Elder did not mean that Duan Lingtian could not too. He mumbled to himself as he watched for a while. As soon as he spoke, one of the two silhouettes in the air was shot tens of meters away. There was only a person left who stood there in pride. It was the Zhou clan Grand Elder. Grand Elder, you've broken through to 9th level monarch stage. The person who flew away was the clan leader of the Zhou clan, Zhou Zheng. He was looking at the Zhou clan Grand Elder in shock at the moment. Chapter 1179, Clan Leader, I've told you that you can't stop me. After taking a glance at Zhou Zheng, the Zhou clan Grand Elder then looked at the people below his feet and yelled in his deep voice, "Cowardly rat, you dare to act, but don't have the guts to bear the responsibility." The old fella's so hot-tempered. Duan Lingtian ascended into the sky as the people watched in shock and he soon arrived before the Zhou clan Grand Elder. He faced him fearlessly. It's you, who killed my son? The Grand Elder asked. If your son's named Zhou Li, then I guess so, Duan Lingtian responded casually. It's him, he killed the Zhou clan Grand Elder's son. At that time, the people at the Zhou clan's auction fair snapped back to their senses. Never had they thought that the purple-clad young man would have killed the Zhou clan Grand Elder's only son. They thought about it, and it soon made sense to them. Duan Lingtian was probably the only person who had the guts to kill the Grand Elder's son. No one dared to do that at all. Good, very good, you killed my son. You'll burn in hell today. As the Zhou clan Grand Elder roared furiously, his robe fluttered without the presence of the wind. He looked like as if he had turned into a raging King Kong with his muscular body. Old fella, why don't you ask why I killed your son? Duan Lingtian looked at the Grand Elder calmly and asked. No matter what, you shouldn't have killed my son. There was a cold will to kill in the Zhou clan Grand Elder's voice, like he would devour anyone who went near him. It seems like you already know. Duan Lingtian looked deeply into the Grand Elder's eyes as he noticed something. So, what if I know? Although my son took your 2 items, even if he were to take your life, you shouldn't have killed him either. There's only one consequence since you killed him, which is to suffer a fate of death. So, I can't kill him even if he took my life. Duan Lingtian was stunned at first, and subsequently, he could not help but guffaw out loud as if he had just heard the funniest joke in the world. You're worthy of the Zhou clan Grand Elder's position. What a tyrant! As he wiped off his tears from the laughter, a cold and terrifying gleam began to sparkle in Duan Lingtian's eyes. His purple robe flapped without any wind like a ball of purple flame burning. Zhou Zheng watched whatever that was happening before his eyes from a distance. He knew there was nothing that he could do about it. The only thing that he could do was to watch silently. No matter what the consequences would be, the result of the fight before his eyes had nothing to do with their Zhou clan. If the purple-clad young man died, the Zhou clan Grand Elder would leave the clan and become a fugitive. He would have to run away from the hunt by the powerhouses from the sect that the purple-clad young man came from. A sect that's able to bring out such a grade 1 spirit sword and grade 1 life recovery pill, it's powerful enough for them to end our Zhou clan. It was a no-brainer for Zhou Zheng to figure that out. If it were not a powerful sect, how else would it get a grade 1 weapons craftsman who could refine a grade 1 spirit weapon that gives a 90% power boost and at the same time, a grade 1 alchemist who refined a grade 1 medicinal pill with 91% purity to join them? If the result were the complete opposite, the purple-clad young man would have killed their Grand Elder. To the Zhou clan, the end result was the same. No matter what it was, their Zhou clan would lose their Grand Elder who had just broken through to 9th level martial monarch stage. So what if I'm tyrannical? The Grand Elder grinned. He spoke in a tone as if Duan Lingtian was nothing to him. Don't worry, I won't kill you right away, I'll torture you slowly so that you'd rather die than being alive. Then, I'll let you die slowly. That's the only way that I can release the grudge in me. There was pleasure in the Zhou clan Grand Elder's tone as he spoke. It was as if he had already tortured Duan Lingtian to death at that moment. That depends if you can do what you said. Duan Lingtian squinted and said calmly like as though what the Zhou clan Grand Elder said did not bother him. You'll find out very soon. The Grand Elder shouted while origin energy rumbled in his body like an earth-shaking, milky flame. A couple of profundities followed him like shadows, and in the next second, he seemed as if he had turned into a cannon shooting ferociously at Duan Lingtian. Whoosh! As the Zhou clan Grand Elder flung his entire body at Duan Lingtian, a spirit sword appeared in his hand. He inserted all of his energy into the spirit sword as he swung it and the sword shuddered intensely while a crisp, ear-piercing sword whistling could be heard. Whoosh! 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 At the same time, tens of thousands of sword rays that seemed unreal shot out in front of the Zhou clan Grand Elder like rain. They were dashing towards Duan Lingtian without any mercy. Duan Lingtian would definitely die from being pierced by the 10,000 sword rays as soon as he was hit. The speed of the sword rays lashing out was even faster than the Zhou clan Grand Elder himself. The 10,000 rays sword technique. As the clan leader himself, Zhou Zheng recognized the sword technique that their Grand Elder was performing at first glance. It was a heaven-rank advanced sword skill which was cultivated to its peak. Only the peak level 10,000 rays sword technique could release 10,000 sword rays when it was performed. Dragon soaring the 9 heavens. Facing the Zhou clan Grand Elder's attack which seemed like a thunderstorm, Duan Lingtian did not fight back forcefully. Instead, he moved away like he had transformed into a divine dragon and dodged the Grand Elder's attack that was coming at him. Whoosh! 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 However, it was naturally not easy to dodge the peak-level heaven-rank advanced 10,000 ray sword technique. As Duan Lingtian performed a martial art movement to dodge the attack, the 10,000 sword rays took a swift turn and chased after him. FWAH. At that moment, the Zhou clan Grand Elder caught up to him. The heaven and earth energy above his head formed into a heaven and earth phenomenon. There were 4 ancient black dragon silhouettes and over 3,000 ancient horned dragon silhouettes. A 9th level martial monarch stage's full origin energy was similar to the strength of 1 ancient black dragons and 2,000 ancient horned dragons. A grade 1 spirit weapon with an 87% power boost gave the additional power of an ancient black dragon and a couple of hundred ancient horned dragons. Apart from that, the remaining few monarch stage profundities would add up to the strength of 2 ancient black dragons and 1,000 ancient horned dragons. Therefore, the Zhou clan Grand Elder's full force was similar to the energy of 4 ancient black dragons and over 3,000 ancient horned dragons. That's pretty fast. Duan Lingtian, who performed the heaven-rank advanced defensive martial skill, dragon soaring the 9 heavens and dodged like a divine dragon, soon noticed the 10,000 sword rays that were trailing after him. Without knowing when, a grin spread at the edge of his lips as he watched the heaven and earth phenomenon form above the Zhou clan Grand Elder's head. Whoosh! Duan Lingtian stood where he was as the people watched. He allowed the sword rays from the sword technique that the Zhou clan Grand Elder performed to cover him. What is he doing? Perhaps he figured that he couldn't run away, so he decided to let it take his life. No, if he's dead, how are we supposed to find out how the sword and the pill came about? Many of their faces flashed with concern as they looked at Duan Lingtian at the Zhou clan's auction fair. Naturally, they were not concerned about Duan Lingtian's life but instead, they were worried that there would be no way for them to find out about the sword and the pill that had been sold to the Zhou clan earlier if he was killed. At that very moment, Feng Tianwu, who was initially sitting in the pavilion, had walked out and looked into the sky. She fixed her eyes on the purple silhouette which was idle. Concern showed between her eyebrows. At that moment, even the clan leader of Zhou clan, Zhou Zheng, and the auction fair manager, Zhou Ji, were frowning as they looked doubtfully at Duan Lingtian. They had no idea what Duan Lingtian was thinking about. It was almost impossible for him to fight back impactfully since he just stood there as the 10,000 sword rays advanced closer to him. Their pupils shrunk very soon. One after another, the rest of their pupils shrunk. Oh God, what did they just see? They saw the purple-clad young man standing there with a sword that appeared at the side of his body. As soon as the sword appeared, it vanished without a trace. At the same time, everyone clearly saw a layer of light shield rise around the purple-clad young man's body that appeared out of thin air. They could hear gusts of rapid sword whistling. It was evident that the light shield was a sword web made of the rapid sword rays. Whoosh, 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 Eventually, the 10,000 sword rays got to Duan Lingtian like rain. They pelted on the layer of light shield that rose around his body. Bang, 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 loud thuds echoed as the 10,000 sword rays rained down. They drove blasts of airwaves which turned into a strong wind, but it did not manage to break the light shield on Duan Lingtian's body after all. How is this possible? The Zhou clan Grand Elder's jaw dropped, and he had an expression of disbelief as he watched what was happening before his eyes. Never had he thought that the murderer who killed his son could defend his attack like a piece of cake, given the fact that Duan Lingtian had encountered the #1 powerhouse of the Zhou clan who had just broken through to 9th level martial monarch stage from his closed-door cultivation. So powerful, he's performing a defensive martial skill, isn't he? That's right. Moreover, it's a defensive martial skill combining the spirit sword. It's brilliant. Many people were discussing among themselves at the Zhou clan's auction fair. They were gawking at the purple-clad young man who was covered in a translucent, 5-colored light shield with respect. Although they knew that the purple-clad young man was powerful, they did not expect him to be this dominant. Not only was he fearless when he faced the 9th level martial monarch powerhouse who was coming at him with the full force of 4 ancient black dragons and 3,000 ancient horned dragons, but he also defended himself against the powerhouse's full force attack with defensive martial skill. Furthermore, he had resisted the powerhouse's attack entirely. FWAH. At that moment, the heaven and earth energy above Duan Lingtian's head were forming into a heaven and earth phenomenon. Just as everyone was looking over, the light shield around Duan Lingtian's body faded. He was left with a sword in his hand while the heaven and earth phenomenon faded away before it even managed to form. Many of them were disappointed to see that go away. Did you say that you'd torture me slowly? Duan Lingtian looked at the Zhou clan Grand Elder who stood not far away in disbelief and asked calmly. Chapter 1180. Upon hearing Duan Lingtian's underlying cynicism, the Zhou clan Grand Elder turned a green shade and became pale, but he did not say anything in response at all. The reason why he had charged there so furiously and swore to kill Duan Lingtian, the enemy who killed his son, was that he had just made a breakthrough to the 9th level martial monarch stage in his closed-door cultivation and had an unblinding faith towards his own strength. He thought that it would be easy for him to kill Duan Lingtian. It was only now that he realized that he was wrong. He was awfully wrong. Even after he had already broken through to the 9th level martial monarch stage, he was still no match for this foe who had killed his son. Just by casting a defensive martial skill, his opponent could block the attack that he had unleashed with his full force. He was very clear about what this indicated. There was a massive gap between his strength and this person. If this guy's strength were only slightly better than his, he would not have been able to block the sword skill that he had unleashed with his full force easily with just a defensive martial skill alone. Although I'm a 9th level martial monarch, I've yet to comprehend any 9th level martial stage profundity at all. There's still so much that I have to improve in terms of my strength. Looking at Duan Lingtian, the Zhou clan Grand Elder's heart skipped a beat as his eyes shone brightly. Where there's life, there's still hope. By the time I've raised the profundities that I need to comprehend, I'll look for him again to avenge my son. The moment the Zhou clan's Grand Elder thought of this, he started to think about retreating. Sword blinking technique. Without any warning, the grade 1 spirit sword in the Grand Elder's hand flicked, and he threw it behind with all his might. Like a lightning bolt, it shot out in fury. Just as everybody, including Duan Lingtian, was taken by surprise, the Zhou clan Grand Elder's body trembled and his speed suddenly accelerated to an extreme before he chased the grade 1 spirit sword that had yet to speed up. Holding on to it, he allowed it to lead him as it flew away. Whoosh, Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, the Zhou clan Grand Elder disappeared after his Grade 1 spirit sword vanished in thin air. However, in the eyes of the few people, including Duan Lingtian and Zhou Zheng, the Zhou clan Grand Elder had first flung out his spirit sword with all his might and then fled with the help of the Grade 1 sword. Such speed that could be catalyzed by the boost from the spirit weapon was none other than the Heaven rank advanced movement martial technique, sword blinking technique. It was way stronger than other regular movement martial techniques. He escaped. Just when the Zhou clan Grand Elder vanished into thin air, the crowd on the scene started to realize he had fled. Perplexed expressions appeared on their faces. Just now, when the Grand Elder had made his appearance, he had charged in menacingly, all proud and arrogant. However, right now, he had turned his tail and ran, creating a strong and sharp contrast between the scenario before. Trying to flee, a sneer crept upon the corner of Duan Lingtian's mouth. Dragon soaring the 9 heavens. The next instance, Duan Lingtian seemed to have transformed into a divine dragon, and a series of sword swishing set off where he swept past. That was the quasi-royal grade spirit sword that was clearing a path for him. As the last set of movement martial technique in the 9 Dragons War Sovereign technique, the dragon soaring the 9 heavens was the most brilliant movement martial technique ever. It could even be cast through a spirit weapon as well. For this very reason, the speed that Duan Lingtian possessed now was the strength of 4 ancient black dragons plus an additional 9,000 ancient horned dragons. It was way more than Zhou clan Grand Elder's strength of 4 ancient black dragons plus 3,000 over ancient horned dragons. In just a blink of an eye, Duan Lingtian came to block Zhou clan's Grand Elder. How are you so fast? Seeing the purple-clad young man standing in front of him, horror dawned on the Zhou clan Grand Elder as disbelief filled his eyes. In his opinion, he already relied on the strength boost from his spirit weapon to flee, so by right, he should not have been able to catch up with him. Do you think that only your movement martial technique can have a strength boost from your spirit weapon? Duan Lingtian seemed to have seen through the Zhou clan Grand Elder's mind as he retorted. For a moment, the color drained from the Grand Elder's face. No wonder this guy could chase him. It turned out that his movement martial technique could get a strength boost from the spirit weapon too. In fact, even those same Heaven rank advanced movement martial techniques had some differences among them. Those that could have a strength boost from the spirit weapon were worlds apart from those that could not. I'm going all out with you. Noticing that he was unable to flee from this purple-clad young man, adding on to the fact that he was no match to him at all hopes of the Grand Elder dashed to pieces as he roared out loudly before exerting his force towards Duan Lingtian. Going all out with me? Are you sure you're worthy enough? In the face of the Zhou clan Grand Elder's roar and his lightning-like figure that was charging at him, Duan Lingtian's face was full of disdain. With a raise of his hand, he casually flicked the spirit sword in his opponent's hand away with his own sword. Whoosh! In the next instance, Duan Lingtian pounded towards the Zhou clan Grand Elder like the force of evil, and one of his palms thrust forward towards his dantian with a force that seemed as though a deity was aiding it. No. Upon seeing this, the Grand Elder seemed to have realized something as terror dawned on his face before he cried out sharply. Bam! Unfortunately, it was to no avail no matter how loudly he cried out. With Duan Lingtian's palm thrust out, his dantian was crippled easily, causing him to follow in his son's footsteps. Then, like an eagle clutching a chick, Duan Lingtian carried the Zhou clan Grand Elder back to the Zhou clan's auction square. It had only been a span of a blink of an eye from the moment he left until he returned with the Grand Elder's body with him. Clan leader Zhou, this guy wanted to kill me, and I've now crippled his dantian. I'm sure you don't have any objection in me killing him, do you? Duan Lingtian looked towards Zhou Zheng, the clan leader of the Zhou clan, and asked nonchalantly. His hand was holding on to the Zhou clan Grand Elder, and the energy in his hand kept gushing out, destroying the profundity that the Grand Elder sent out and applied to his own body again and again. Despite the Grand Elder having had his cultivation base crippled, the damage was only limited to his origin energy alone. His profundity still remained. Although Zhou Zheng was incredibly ashen, he did not say anything in reply. How could he dare say that he had any objection at such a time? Their Zhou clan Grand Elder had just been crippled. Their Grand Elder had always been one of the very best in the Zhou clan, and he used to be just as mighty as him. After the Zhou clan Grand Elder had made a breakthrough to the 9th level martial monarch stage, he had already become the strongest person in the clan. Even so, he had still been crippled by this purple-clad young man in front of him. He had completely zero doubts that if he dared to voice that the Zhou clan had objections towards him now, the future awaiting the clan would no doubt consist of attacks that would lash at them like a furious storm. For the sake of his clan, he could only choose to remain silent. It looks like clan leader Zhou has no objection at all. Seeing Zhou Zheng remain silent, Duan Lingtian knew his stance already. With a lift of his hand, he pushed the Zhou clan Grand Elder away. In the next instance, Duan Lingtian stretched out a hand and an invisible energy extended out to transform into a hidden hand that clasped onto the neck of the Zhou clan Grand Elder before hoisting him up in the air. See cough, the wizened face of the Zhou clan Grand Elder that was covered in a curly beard was now thoroughly flushed. Because of the pain on his throat, he could not stop coughing dryly. Your son, Zhou Li, was just like you as well. After I crippled his dantian, I also hoisted him up high by the neck. Duan Lingtian stared at the Zhou clan Grand Elder calmly and remarked indifferently, tisk tisk, even the way the both of you struggle is also the same. As expected of father and son. Why you, upon hearing Duan Lingtian's words, there was no doubt that the Grand Elder could no longer hold it back any longer. However, being gripped by the neck, he could not even utter a complete sentence. All that he could do was glare at Duan Lingtian with his eyes bulging. What? Duan Lingtian's gaze turned cold as his tone became clear. Today, the reason I came to the Zhou clan's auction square was to entrust 2 items to be auctioned. However, your son, Zhou Li, was a good Samaritan, indeed. Not only did he try to pocket the items that I entrusted, but he even tried to kill me as well. It's okay for him to kill me, so tell me how is it not okay for me to kill him? How ridiculous. As Duan Lingtian reached the end of his sentence, he sneered. Right at this moment, the crowd in the Zhou clan's auction square finally learned about the entire incident. The items that the son of the Zhou clan Grand Elder tried to pocket must be that sword and the pill then. What a huge appetite he had. He actually dared to pocket an auctioned item that costs 800,000 pieces of high-grade origin stones. Wasn't he scared of bursting with greed and being too full? If he really had his way just now, we'd most likely still be in the dark about there actually being such a grade 1 spirit sword and life recovery pills that exist in this world. When the crowds buried their heads in discussion, they were filled with the wrath of righteousness. Just now, you said that you want to torture me to death slowly. Originally, I shouldn't let you die so fast as well so easily. However, I'm always a person who respects the aged and cherishes the young, so I'll send you away directly and let you reunite with your son then. Duan Lingtian glared coldly at the Grand Elder as he spelled out unhurriedly. The moment the crowd heard this, the corner of their mouths twitched right away. How the hell was this respecting the aged and cherishing the young? As for Duan Lingtian, when he reached the end of his sentence, his hand suddenly tightened, and the invisible hand proceeded to tighten too. Crack! A crisp sound reverberated in the air. That was the Zhou clan Grand Elder's neck being shattered to pieces. As his head lolled limply to one side, he had utterly lost his breath. He was dead. A 9th-level martial monarch had died just like that. However, such a 9th-level martial monarch as the Zhou clan Grand Elder could only be ranked at the bottom among the group of 9th-level martial monarchs in the Cloud Continent. He was not even worth mentioning in front of the other 9th-level martial monarchs. Whoosh, whoosh. With a raise of his hand, Duan Lingtian kept the spatial ring on the Grand Elder's finger and the profundity fragments in his body. Then, he casually threw the body out and let him fall to the ground before it smashed to become a puddle of bloody mess. The scene fell into a dead silence once again. Everybody's gaze shifted towards Duan Lingtian in unison. They were all taken by surprise by his strength. How could he actually defeat the Zhou clan Grand Elder who had broken through to the 9th-level martial monarch stage? Who exactly is he? This was the common question in everybody's minds. Tian Wu. After Duan Lingtian had stored the Grand Elder's spatial ring and profundity fragments, he looked towards the woman in red standing outside the pergola, Feng Tian Wu. Whoosh. The moment she heard him, she rose up into the air under the watchful eyes of the others and soon arrived beside Duan Lingtian. Right at this moment, somebody mustered his courage and asked, "Sir, you still have yet to tell us where did the sword and pill that you auctioned come from?" The crowd could tell that they were about to leave when the purple-clad young man called for his companion to go to his side. "I told you guys that I'd tell you, so I shall answer you." Duan Lingtian looked down at the crowds and replied slowly.